Okay, good to go.
It is connecting right now to the YouTube
Okay.
link, and now it is live.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Board meeting of April 8th, 2021. We have a pretty busy agenda tonight. We're going to alter our agenda a bit because we want to hear from a proposed project at Mather Hospital. That will be done prior to the actual public hearing at 6:30, with the public hearing being on 1 North Country Road. That's the old Lobster House building. So we were going to approve some minutes and hear from our trustee, Rebecca. We're going to defer that till after the public hearing. I will mention now at the onset that our next planning board meeting will be on May 6th. So that being said, Lisa, why don't you admit whoever's on for Mather Hospital, which I understand Anthony Guardino, the attorney.
Yes, I will promote Anthony Guardino to panelist. 1 minute.
Okay, and while Lisa's doing that, Anthony's going to give us, this is an introduction to the project because the submission just came in. There's a large set of plans involved. It's an expansion to the hospital itself in terms of building, and it also involves a parking expansion. So Anthony's going to give us just an overview, and he knows we have another public hearing at 6:30, so he will be finished prior to the public hearing on 1 North Country Road. So Cindy, if you wouldn't mind reading in just the parameters of the application.
Okay, 75 North Country Road site plan amendment. Application number 0614-21, John T. Mather Hospital. Suffolk County Tax Map Number, District 206, Section 17, Block 3, Lot 3.2, Zoning, PO, Professional Office. Applicant, Courtney Riley, Director of Land Development, care of VHB Engineering. Property owner, Northwell Health. Contact Farrell Fritz PC, attention Anthony Guardino, partner. Description, emergency department and surgical services expansion master plan. The action tonight is to introduce the application.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. Good evening, Anthony. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. Before I start, could you possibly admit Wayne Schatz and Jennifer Arbuckle, because one from Mather and one from E4 Architecture, because they were going to provide different components of this overview, and I'm going to be super brief and then turn it over to them if that's okay.
Okay, 1 minute. I'm promoting Wayne Schatz to panelist and Jennifer Arbuckle. I also have the document you sent to Allison Lapointe. If you want me to share that on the screen at any point, just let me know.
That would be great. That would be great. So good evening, everyone. Before I turn it over, I know that I'm not going to even go into the details and waste your time. Obviously, you're more familiar with this campus than anyone else on this call from Mather. You all live in the community. You're well aware of the hospital. It's about 38, almost 39 acres of land, professional office district, which allows the hospital a special permit. Just, you know that Northwell has recently acquired Mather, and once it did that, it kind of conducted an assessment of the hospital and its facilities. It did a needs assessment, based on the new technologies and the expectations of healthcare, and that led to the development of a master plan, which is a long-term plan. Right now, it has 3 phases. And those 3 phases are, first, the emergency department relocation, and then the fit out of a surgical services area, which will just be a core and shell. There will be a relocation of the heliport and some surface parking reconfiguration and a driveway realignment on the north side of the campus. And then phase 2 will just be the interior build out of the surgical services portion that it is going to build out as core and shell in phase 1, and then later there'll be a main lobby expansion and the creation or construction of a parking deck. So those are the three phases. It will stretch out over approximately 7 years, maybe more. We don't know what the future brings, but the immediate needs right now are for phase one, which we're hoping to start in the first or second quarter of 2022. So that's why we have made that application. And then phase two will follow, and then phase three will happen when it happens, but it'll be down the road. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Wayne Schatz from Northwell and Mather, and if you would like to address the board.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Let me just get started by thanking the village. During the pandemic, the village was very accommodating to help us meet the needs, of the community with some, adjustments to our campus, type of thing. So we just want to thank you. The mayor and Allison was very, very helpful. To kind of give you the overview, our major need, as Anthony, spoke, was a replacement of our emergency department. Emergency department is 30 years old. It's kind of hard to believe that, but it's 30 years old. Just doesn't meet what we need today, and I'll walk you through some of that. The patients we treat today in our emergency department are much, much sicker than they've been in the past. This will be sort of intuitive to you. With the advent of urgent care, all the people who really don't need hospital level of care are appropriately going to the urgent care facility. So that means the patients who are coming to the hospital are much sicker, and our population is aging and people are living longer. So what we're just seeing a sicker population within the emergency department, and that leads to more equipment, more staff, et cetera. So we're really just don't have the space requirements today for a modern emergency room. We're also we're seeing in the community a higher need and more behavioral health patients. And our emergency room that was built, 30 years ago was just not laid out to accommodate those patients in the way that we need to, treat them and care for them. So that's kind of an event that's evolving through, throughout the country. We're also seeing, the staff, we have more staff in the emergency department than we've had in the past. A great example, we have social workers from about 8 in the morning till 11 at night. 30 years ago, we didn't have that. Why do we have social workers? Well, when patients come into the hospital, we try to prevent admissions into the hospital. So the social workers, when people come into the hospital and then they need resources at home that they currently don't have, and that's maybe brought them into the emergency department. The social workers are there to arrange immediate home care, to arrange durable medical equipment, to arrange oxygen for them. So we have more staff in the ER to try to care for those patients so those patients can be cared for home and prevent admissions into the hospital. So we have our ER is just getting a little bit more crowded based upon the needs of the community and the changing needs of how medicine is provided. We also have electronic medical record, which we didn't have 30 years ago. So there's more computer equipment in the ER than we've ever had before. Our emergency room departments today, emergency rooms have CAT scans within the emergency department. We have a CAT scan outside the emergency department. So we have travel time for patients. When patients come in for strokes, we want to put them on the CAT scan within the first 5 minutes that they get here, in order we can evaluate whether they have a stroke. They can be treated with a drug called TPA, which will dissolve any blood clot. And so the travel time and the standard in around the country is by the patient hits the door to when you start infusing that medication has to be within 45 minutes in order to meet the standard of care and get the best outcome for the patient. So our existing emergency room, CAT scans were not really considered. It was sort of, they were around, but they weren't an everyday tool. But we use the CAT scans more often than we use, regular X-ray equipment now for the emergency department. So for patients in the emergency department. So we need a CAT scan in the emergency department to increase patient flow and to meet the needs of the patients and ensure that they get the best outcome from a timing perspective. The other thing that's kind of interesting, about 7 years ago, we started residency programs here at Mather Hospital. These are training programs for physicians who have completed their medical school and now are going on for their hospital training. We have residencies in internal medicine, radiology, psychiatry, transitional year. We have fellows in interventional radiology, and we have fellows in hematology oncology. So we have about 112 residents who work out of Mather Hospital. That's both good for our hospital and it's good for the community. When we presented to the mayor, she indicated what mayor wouldn't want 112 new doctors moving into her community, type of thing. And she also indicated that that has worked out very well for the village based upon the fact that it supports all the apartments that are being built in the village, because the residents are here anywhere from 3 to 4 years, and then they usually, some of them stay and are employed, and some of them, but most of them wind up moving on. So the residents are actually spend part of their training in the emergency department. They go down, they evaluate the patients with a teaching physician. They make recommendations. They work with the patients. They're interviewing the patient and the family. We teach them interviewing skills, how to communicate to the patients. So we have more people in the ER because now we're a teaching community hospital, and our existing ER just is not well suited to accommodate that. As you know, or if any of you have been in your ER, 30 years ago, there was everybody had cubicle curtains, as opposed to all the rooms were hard walled for auditory privacy. And today's standards, we do not want the patient and the families who are next door to a cubicle curtain hearing what's going on. That's just not appropriate, because you can share sensitive information between families or between patients, and that's just not appropriate in today. So we really need to provide a different level of privacy to the patients that we serve in our communities, and ensure that we have that auditory privacy. So that's kind of like an overview of the ER. The ER volume is kind of steady. It might be dropping like 1% to 2% a year because of the urgent care, but the patients who are in the emergency department, the higher percentage are admitted. And we're spending a longer amount of time per patient, because we're not just coming in doing suturing or doing a fracture. These are more complicated medical patients. So the patients have a longer time spent in the ER. So the physicians can diagnose them. Patients are older, more complex, type of thing. So that also is a need. So we kind of need more space based upon all above reasons. So that's kind of the first component of our master facility plan. The second component, as Anthony alluded to, is expanding our surgical services. We do not need additional ORs, but our ORs need to be bigger. So our goal is to build some shelf space in phase one. And then you'll see with Jennifer Arbuckle, our architect, she'll walk you through the different phases, and then eventually we'll build those out. So we want to build shelf space, build a couple new ORs, type of thing, and take our that are larger to accommodate the equipment that is used today, and then take our existing ORs and combine some of them to get them to a size that will meet today's needs and standards. Why do we need larger ORs? We do a lot of robotic surgery, and the robotic equipment is very big. Robotic surgery is minimally invasive. It gets better outcomes. They have videos that really that the physicians are looking on screens, not directly into the body cavity. The screens are magnified so they can really see the structures of all the organs much better, and therefore have better outcomes. There's less errors to nick something or perforate something because they have just better visualization. The physicians are sitting down. They're working on a separate console that is one corner of the room, when the robotic instruments go into perforations in the abdominal cavity to the patient, and they sit there, and the physicians then are don't get as tired by standing on their feet for a 4-hour surgery, and they have more finesse and more better manipulation and more fine motor manipulation and fine motor skills. So the second phase is really then to renovate our ORs. The third phase is, potentially, which we think is going to be 7 or more years out, but we wanted to get on our master facility plan, is just change our front entrance a little bit. And that's really to have more security and have better traffic control coming into the hospital. And that is even more important during the pandemic and COVID. And then also to have a parking deck eventually. And we will be expanding some surface parking, as Anthony alluded to, in phase one, just to accommodate patient need. So that's kind of the overview of our need, and sort of give you a background of how medicine is changing, how the patient age of the patients are changing, how the patients are sicker, and how we need to adjust to meet the community needs. So if it's okay with everybody, I'll turn this over to Jennifer Arbuckle, who's architect for the project, and she'll walk you through the different phases.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Jen, I just want to let you know we've got a little bit less than 15 minutes. I mean,
That's fine. I'm going to be, that's fine. I will be shorter than these two. How about
okay,
that?
because we have to.
Sorry
start
if I was
running
wordy.
on time.
No,
so-
no, it's fine. So if
Okay.
it's okay, I am going to share my screen because I do have some really quick, oh, I'm not allowed to share my screen. I was going to just show some quick little diagrams that I could talk to.
I think Lisa can do that.
I was sent a PDF.
Yeah, that'd be
So if you would like me to share that, I can do that.
That'd be perfect.
Let me just. So this was the project review. Is this?
Yep, exactly. And if you just want to go to the first sheet. So this this sheet shows the, sorry, my cat has decided it's time to visit me. Come on. This shows, here we are, in the new normal here. So this shows the overall layout of the site, and I'm sure you're all quite familiar with it, but just a brief orientation. North Country Road is running horizontally across the bottom of the sheet, and Belcher Road is running up and down on the left-hand side of the sheet, and the property that the hospital owns sort of goes off the screen on the top. So you can sort of see all of the components that we've talked about here. The main entrance obviously is facing downward on the sheet. And then the new emergency department and surgical services addition would be on the north side of the property, sort of, I guess, up behind the hospital, so to speak. The new helipad, which is part of that first phase, is adjacent to it. And then the parking expansion that we've talked a little bit about would be to the right of the helipad, partly over some area that is gravel parking lot now, and then other area that's not parking currently. And then the proposed parking deck that would be in phase 3 is shown just below there, obviously. If you want to just go to the next sheet that sort of talks about each phase with a little bit closer view. So as Anthony and Wayne were talking about, phase 1 is the emergency department replacement. Because of we looked at a number of different options, but because of the location that we all agreed was sort of optimal for the emergency department, it is located on top of what is currently an existing parking lot just north of the hospital. As I said, on level 2, that part of the hospital currently houses the existing surgical services area. And so the shell of the future surgery services addition needs to be built at the same time as the emergency department. And so that's why it's included in phase 1. So phase 1, as we've said, would be the ED and the shell space for the surgical services. There would be a basement area below the surgical services shell, and that would connect back into the main floor of the hospital. As you know, the site slopes up as you go to the north, and the main entrance is down a level from this level that I'm talking about currently. Also part of this, in addition to the helipad and the parking that we've already talked about, in order to streamline the ambulance approach to the site and maybe reorient some of the parking a little bit closer to the existing medical office building, part of this first phase would be a relocation of the Belcher driveway a little bit further north on the site, because it gives us a better approach for the ambulance vehicles. And as I said, it moves the parking a little bit closer to the existing medical arts building. So if you just want to go to the next one. So that addition, I should also mention while you're scrolling down, is about 48,000 square feet, of which 37,000 square feet is on the level 2 grade level, and then 11,000 or so is in that basement area that I was talking about before. So this phase 2 has 2 components to it. One would be the fit up of that surgical services addition area, which is about 11,000 square feet. And then we would go back once those new ORs are constructed, and we would then go back and renovate and upgrade the existing surgical services suite. So that would be part of this phase as well. And then if you just want to slide to the last one, if you could. So then phase 3 would be the new main entrance work that Wayne discussed, and also the new parking deck. And so it's called a garage here, but I just want to, right now the current thinking would be, because of the grade changes, would be that there would be a new parking deck at the same level as the new parking just above it. And then there would be parking underneath where they're currently an expansion of the existing parking that's on the lower level. So it's not a garage or a big structure. It's just really a deck that allows us to increase the parking on the north side of the site and also underneath on the south side of the site. That is a very quick summary of the 3 different phases. The main entrance addition that we've talked about is about 5,500 square feet. And that project would also include some renovations in some of the spaces that are adjacent to that new addition to connect everything back into the hospital.
Let me just add, when hospitals want to expand, they're required to submit a certificate of need to the New York State Department of Health. And we have submitted our certificate of need to the New York State Department of Health for the expansion of our ED and the surgical services shell space. And, along with the parking, parking to the, parking component.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We got a couple of minutes, so if any board members have any questions would like to ask either Jen or Wayne, that would be fine.
If I
Go ahead,
may,
Laura.
I have quite a few, so I'm not sure I'll just start with the parking since that's where we ended. I noticed that it's phase 3, which, if I understood correctly, is not for about 7 years. I'm just curious, the parking garage, what parking is that addressing? What required parking is that addressing? And whatever that is forcing that expanded need for parking, because it looks like you're required to have 1,029 spaces for phase 3. But if that's not for 7 years, the parking garage, then how are you accommodating for the parking during phase 1 and 2? If some of those parking spaces are what you're addressing in the parking garage. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I will answer that as best I can. It might be a more complicated answer, as we get further into this review process. But in phase 1, we have some additional parking that we are adding to the campus as part of that parking lot expansion, the surface parking lot expansion. And so part of that is a replacement for the parking that will be lost as part of the new addition. And part of it is just expansion in general to address current needs. I think, as Wayne said, the hospital was asked to do a comprehensive master plan. And so we always look to, what are we thinking that we would want to do ultimately on this campus in totality. And so I think the parking deck is partly designed to address some future anticipated need for parking, but not a current need. And so, it may or may not need to happen in the future, but we wanted to make sure that we were looking ahead and being as thoughtful as possible.
Okay. And then staying on the parking issue, I have used, there's a really nice park on your northeasternmost corner. And it looks like that park will be lost. And I was just curious if that park was a requirement from some earlier submission.
I can address that. That's a nature trail that the hospital put in, to accommodate both our employees and the public, if they wanted to walk through there. So it's not a requirement. We put that in as sort of to allow employees to get outside, walk through there. So we will lose that type of thing, but there's no requirement.
Well, and also just to clarify a little bit further, we lose a little bit of it, but actually the area of new parking that's anticipated goes to just about the existing tree line. So it's on top. It's not actually taking out a significant portion of, we may have to relocate the trailhead a little bit, but ultimately most of that is actually up behind, sort of off the sheet a little bit.
Oh, that's good. That's great. And if that is a public amenity, is that something you might want to put on your full environmental assessment then? It's not listed in there.
Yeah, we can talk with our consultants about that.
Okay. And then the other question I had is currently, where do the emergency vehicles enter into the, especially if they're coming from the east, where do they enter the compound, as you will, as opposed to the new curb cut or the shifted curb cut?
So currently, as I didn't point this out, and I probably should have, but I maybe made an assumption that everyone knows. The current location of the existing ED is down in the bottom left, of the hospital footprint. And so currently, right now, the ambulances come in the main entrance on the North Country Road side, and they go through the front of the hospital, and then there's a circle there that they sort of circle around. And so, is it optimal? Perhaps not, but it is, sort of the current condition. One of the, I guess, benefits possibly of moving the emergency department up to the back of the site is that the ambulances will actually have 2 points of access to the site. They could come from the Belcher driveway, or they could come from the North Country and make their way up and around. So that will be completely connected around. That connection will remain.
So that was my follow-up question was, I always assumed that they used the North Country entrance if they were coming from the east, heading west towards the hospital. And I'm glad to hear that you'll still allow them to enter that way, because I didn't get to read through your whole traffic assessment. Because I was worried if we forced all of the ambulances to go through that intersection at North Country and Belter, that it might be a bigger impact. So,
I'd just like to get one question in before we go.
Oh, I'm sorry, Barbara.
That's all right.
Sorry.
On the plans I have, it's really not that obvious that the ingress from Belcher Road has been pushed further north. Can you tell me how far north it's going to be?
I don't have the drawings right in front of me, but I'm going to say, I think it's roughly, I want to say it's like maybe 30 feet. It's not like it's not a significant shift, but it does make a big difference to the site circulation, with the new building coming into play there.
Okay, because there are residential homes directly across the street. So I was just trying to get an idea of which houses it's across from, and pulling the ambulance traffic up Belcher Road pulls them in front of residents. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, we looked at that as well. It's all residential along there, so there wasn't maybe a better, one moving a little bit further made it a little bit better and didn't impact someone. It seems to be, it's all in about the same location there.
Okay, it's about 30 feet north of where it is now.
And then Ray, can I have one more quick question?
One more quick one.
You noted that you will be seeking some variances. Was it just for the parking length, or were there other variances that you were going for?
This is Anthony. It looks like it's just going to be the parking length. There's some relief that's required with regard to the heliport, but that's going to be relief that's going to come from the Board of Trustees. They have the ability to modify some of the requirements.
Oh, okay, good, Allison.
I just want to pop in and say that planning staff has been looking at both of those required reliefs, and we are planning on taking both of those issues to the Board of Trustees to see if we could actually get a code change rather than requiring the variance, because I think we've internally agreed, one, I don't know more than the FAA about a helipad, and my 1972 code is probably not the best way to regulate it. And two, we've had repeated issues with the length of the parking stalls and the drive aisles as it's drafted in our code. So rather than take the hospital through a variance, if the board is amenable, I'd rather clean up those two code sections.
Point of information from the Board of Trustees. I know that the parking committee has been looking as well at the parking modules and all of this. So that code was already sort of being poked at. So it's not only the hospital, as Allison's saying, that would benefit from another,
It comes up a lot.
Yes,
it comes up a lot.
So the helipad, I don't know anyone else who's looking for a helipad in the village, but it does not mean that it's not a very important amenity there at the hospital. And yes, 1972, maybe it's time for a second glance.
Just about. And I think that takes us, Ray, right
Yes,
to
it does.
public hearing time.
Yes,
I
I'd
took
like
you
to,
over. I'm sorry.
Thank
Anthony,
you so
your
much.
team nailed it. You did a great job. I took you over. Sorry.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Anthony.
you.
Elaine,
Thank you very much.
Jen.
Thank you, everybody.
And at this
Take care.
point, we'll ask Lisa to admit the people who are here for the One North Country Road public hearing.
Okay, 1 minute. Let me just see. So I have a number of people here for One North Country, so just give me a minute to admit them all. I'm admitting Eric Russo right now, Eric Nicosia, Patrick Lenahan is joining us. Where is Rob Gito is joining us, and I believe this is Sandra Wadakor.
Okay, we'll give them a minute to connect.
Yeah, everyone should now be here, though they may be muted, may not have their videos on yet.
Okay. Everyone on the One North Country Road team hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. First things first, Cindy, if you'd like to read the particulars on this project. We have had some work sessions on this project. It's an ongoing thing. We scheduled a public hearing for tonight, so this is the public hearing. So Cindy, if you would read that in, and we'll get going.
Cindy, you're muted.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, do it again, please.
One North Country Road, site development plan, application number 0611-20. Location is One North Country Road, former location of the Port Jeff Lobster House. Suffolk County Tax Map Number District 206, 21-3-27, 28, and 29. Zoning is General Commercial C2. Applicant Port Development LLC as contract vendee. Property owner Robert Morelli and Alvin Morelli and Dorothy Morelli Family Trust. Contact Eric Russo, Esquire. Description: proposed construction of a 3-story, 48,450 square foot mixed-use building with 32 one-bedroom and 4 two-bedroom apartments, 1,200 square feet of retail/office, and a covered garage area.
Sorry, Ray, unfortunately you're muted.
Ray?
I got it.
Okay.
Must be a wild mouse over here on my screen. First, I'd like to go over the format of the public hearing and how we're going to conduct it. First thing, we'll hear from the applicant. It's a general presentation on the project, some of the key elements of it, because we realize that despite the fact that some people have attended the virtual work session meetings, others who live near the project in particular, who are now receiving mailings for the public hearing, may not have been aware of it or are familiar with the particulars of it. So this will be an overview of the project, the main issues or the main components of the project. After the applicant speaks, the planning board will ask questions, and there'll be some dialogue between the applicant and the planning board. After that, we'll go to a public comment period, and Lisa is going to be able to admit people who are participating on Zoom. And I guess the process is you first raise your hand, Lisa? Is that?
Yes, yeah, they can click the raise hand icon if they would like to comment. I will promote them to a panelist to make their comments and then put them back as an attendee when they're finished. They are also able to type a comment into our chat feature in Zoom, and that can be read into the record if for any reason they're not set up to participate with audio.
Okay, and if you remind me, I'll go through those comments because sometimes they tend to forget that they're on there. So during the public comment period, we'll hear from the public, basically. Depending on how many people are waiting or how many people are visible to Lisa, we may restrict the amount of time available for each public comment because we'd like to not have this last too long, this public hearing. At the conclusion of that, the public speakers should also, first of all, state their name and address. They will be sworn in by our stenographer, Debbie, who's visible on the screen, and take an oath. Unless you're an attorney, you don't need to be sworn in, but otherwise you do. Make the comments, address the board, please. The board will answer the questions. If we need the applicant to weigh in on the answers, the applicant will be allowed to answer a question. A lot of times that's what happens, that the applicant has the answer to the question and the board doesn't. I mentioned that we've had some working sessions. We've also had some late submissions. Normally the planning department requires 2 weeks in advance of a public hearing or a public meeting to review anything that's submitted by the applicant. And we've had some substantial submissions just within the last week, including apartment calculations and studies from Pat Lenahan of VHB regarding the amount of parking that's provided on the site, a revised set of plans reflecting several of our concerns from a work session we had, the last one being on the 29th of March. The board has a lot of work to do, and the planning department as well, to review a lot of different items. In addition, anyone who makes a comment tonight, it's going to be recorded and addressed by the applicant. But in addition, we're going to keep the comment period open for 10 days. So we'll be taking, or actually the planning, building and planning department will be taking comments. They can be dropped off at 88 North Country Road, the office there, or they can be mailed, but they need to be received 10 days from today to be addressed as part of the comment period. So because we have comments coming today that need to be evaluated, comments coming in 10 days, a good deal of information for the planning board and the planning department to review, this public hearing will be kept open till the next public hearing date, which is May 6th. At that point, we will have the results of the comments that come in. We'll have an evaluation of all the materials that have been submitted within the last week by the applicant. And that should be a pretty good follow-up to tonight's meeting. At this point, I think we can proceed with a presentation by the applicant. So I don't know who's going to speak first. Eric Russo, would that be you?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I know that you do not need to be sworn in. Just give your name and address. Business address would be fine. Anyone else on your team will need to be sworn in.
So in the interest of expediency, the team consists of Eric Nicosia, Pat Lenahan, Sandra Wadekar, and Robert Gito. So why don't we swear them all in at once, and then we'll start.
Okay.
Okay, if you could all raise your right hand, please. Do you swear the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Could each of you respond, please?
I do.
Thank you.
I do.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, my name is Eric Russo. I'm with the law firm of Van Brunt, Jesuiak and Russo with offices at 140 Main Street, New York. And I'm here tonight representing the applicant, Port Development LLC, as contract vendee for 414 Main Street, Suite 202, Port Jefferson, New York. As Ms. Suarez indicated, they are as contract vendee, and the property owners as contract vendors are Robert and Alvin Morelli and the Dorothy Morelli Family Trust. As I previously stated, with me this evening, who are going to assist with the presentation, is Eric Nicosia, our project architect and design professional of Rocky Point, Patrick Lenahan, who is our engineer from VHB Engineering, who has done our traffic analysis and provided you with a traffic report, Sandra Wadakor, our landscape designer from Oakvale Landscape Design LLC in Shoreham, who has assisted Mr. Nicosia and the Gito Group with the landscaping being proposed on the site, on as well as on North Country and Main Street. And lastly, Robert Gito on behalf of the applicant, Port Development LLC. The project this evening, as you are aware, has been reviewed and discussed with your planning staff and your board for several months since its submission. We've had, as you indicated, work sessions to discuss the project and look at the size and the zoning issues and the parking for the project, and had meetings in January, February, and 2 in March. There have been submissions and reiterations of the project that have been revised based on comments from staff. Tonight, what you're looking at is what was recently submitted and completed based on those comments as of Monday, April 5th. And our project description, as proposed by the applicant, is to construct a 3-story, 48,450 square foot mixed-use building with 32 one-bedroom apartments, 4 two-bedroom apartment units, lounge area, lobby, fitness and game rooms, outdoor and covered patio areas, utility rooms, and 1,800 square feet of retail office space with elevator service. There is also a basement area, and in addition, there are 10 covered parking garage spaces with 33 outdoor parking spaces, on-site landscaping, and the entrance, after much discussion, has now come from Thorn Lane for ingress and egress into the building. As this board is aware, and as the public is aware, this is at 1 North Country Road on the northeast corner of Main Street, also known as Route 25A. And as Ms. Suarez pointed out, it is zoned general commercial C2 district. There are 3 tax lots. The 3 tax lots, as referenced by Ms. Suarez, are 206, 21-3, 27, 28, and 29. And it is formerly the Lobster House, and there is a florist shop that was there on the premises. However, our project, after much discussion and much work with the staff and your board, is fully zoning compliant in terms of what its setbacks are, its lot area, and its parking. We are going to be connected to the Suffolk County Sewer District number 1, the Suffolk County Water Authority service to the project. And this project requires a coordinated review under SEQA because the area in the Upper Master Port Jefferson area, when the 2030 Port Jeff Village Comprehensive Master Plan was done, these particular 3 tax lots, for some reason, weren't included in the Upper Port area. So we are going through a full coordinated review. Ms. Ziegler has forwarded the application to the Suffolk County Planning Commission for comment and input, and they have responded back as of March 24th, 2021, with a letter to the Port Jefferson Village indicating that it is a matter for local determination and that no countywide significant community impacts or intercommunity impacts were located as a result of the application before them. They did point out that they wanted considerations to be given to parking and to traffic. And at the time that this comment was put forward, the study that was prepared by VHB had not been before them. But based on the comments that they cited in their letter, Mr. Lenahan has addressed the 2 concerns and will explain that in his portion of the presentation. The project does have and will have review by Suffolk County Water, Suffolk County Planning, New York State DOT. In addition, it's in an area where it benefits from the Port Jefferson Texaco Avenue Park Services area as it relates. And we did commence review of the elevations with the Architectural Review Committee from the village. Mr. Gito and myself appeared before them on March 9th and presented to them the elevations that were being considered by your board. And we explained what the project was about. They came back with comments, and after further revisions from their comments that were received and your planning board, we provided them this week with new documents, and they have reviewed those, and they provided some preliminary comments to the board for this evening, but they're not yet final. They asked for samples, and our architect, Eric Nicosia, provided them. And we're waiting for one more item, which is the black trim that's being used on the project, to get to them sometime by the 16th of April. That being said, the project, again, has a lot of benefits in that they're in keeping with the master plan for the Upper Port area. It is close to the railroad. It allows for the parking. It allows for walking distance access. It allows for some retail or office use that would be permitted as part of a mixed use building. So what I would like to do at this time is to allow Eric Nicosia to review with you and present to you and further discuss the architectural elevations, how we arrived at what we've done and presenting for you and the public this evening, and also review the site drainage and grading as to the project, as well as lighting on the project overall. Unless you have a question of me at this point, I would bow to Mr. Nicosia, the designer.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, hello, good evening, and to the board and the public. Also, if we could possibly put up the one of the plans or the architectural plans A1, I might help illustrate it, or I can talk about it.
Okay, let me know which ones you would like me to share. I have a few sets here, I think.
Sure, yeah, that's good.
Is this a good starting place?
Yeah, and I guess I'll start up on the east side, up on Thorn Lane, and that being the high point of the property to the east. We have a substantial 20-foot landscape buffer. It is a requirement in the village zoning code to provide this, and it is offers some substantial screening. We come into that entrance, and there are 33 outdoor parking spaces. We have 10 spaces that are underneath the building in a garage, but that garage is open to circulate around in one side and out the other side of it. The low point of the property project happens about 20 feet outside of the building, or to the right-hand side of that red dotted line that you see there. And that level is about 6 inches or so above the existing grade that is there now. So there is no major changes to the grade of the property. It's just evened out a little bit, and from a little bit steeper entrance as you come in, and then it shallows out. The pitch of the underneath the garage, although they're not technically draining rain or snow, we have some runoff from cars and snow that might be under there. So that's pitching out. That's pitching to that low point. And the landscaping continues along the front. We have on the corner, a desirable corner at North Country and Main Street, we've located our commercial space. We've recently increased that from 1,200 square feet up to 1,800 square feet. And so that becomes a desirable location for people to rent for the commercial use. But right next to that, to the right-hand side of that space, it's labeled retail or office, depending on the team. That's another entrance into the open garage area. And that serves as access for people utilizing the parking lot to come to the commercial space, and also to access the main entrance to the apartments and the lobby for the apartments that is in underneath the garage level. And Also, as part of our recent revision, and any of the revisions that I've just made and submitted were circled in red, so it shouldn't be too difficult to decipher. But we have an additional exit that goes to a corridor that runs out to the east side of the building. So on the first floor, in addition to that commercial use space, we have a lobby, an elevator, and corridors. We have 6 apartment units that are down there, and those are all at the same level. And essentially, where that eastern secondary exit is on the right-hand side of the building, that is about the level of the floor is about 6 inches above where that spot is now. So obviously, grade varies greatly as you go down Main Street. So if you're on the west side of the property, significant drop as you go down. So on the lower level in that space is a covered patio for the residents to use as a recreation area, and we have some outdoor patio areas. So where the mouse is pointing now, that's the outdoor area, and underneath that, on the lower level, is a recreation area for the residents of the building. On the upper floors, we have two floors. On the upper floors, there's 15 apartments per floor. And I guess, right, we can scroll to the next, I guess one more page after this, and we should be there. That's the lower level that we're passing through. We have a game room and a fitness center down there. On the upper levels, each of the floors will be identical. It's 15 units on each floor. The apartments range from about 750 square feet to 880. The largest one being 900 as a 1-bedroom unit. The majority of them would be in the 850 range. The 4 2-bedroom units that we have are 1,150 square feet. Apartments have a various size balconies. Some of them we call them Juliet balcony, which is a small balcony. Others have more generous balconies depending on location and site. I guess if we can scroll to the last 2 pages, we'll address some of the issues with the elevation. That is our roof. And we have the building is designed with the lower level being all brick, and that brick continues as an accent in some locations around the building. The brickwork over the windows has a soldier course as a lintel, so that's a brick that's standing upright, and that represents the structure over the window. We have storefront glazing and frames on that lower level, awnings. As we go to the upper 2 floors, we are utilizing 2 different color sidings and a shingle style look. Windows have a large 3.5-inch surround trim. It has a large pediment trim over the top. All the apartments windows have transom windows of varying heights. And also on the balconies where we have the doors, they have transom windows also. There are numerous features that articulate the facade, bumping in and out, if you will, as well as at the corners of North Country Road and Main Street. Down on the north side on Main Street, we have an octagonal type turret that has the one on North Country has a balcony associated with it. The one down lower does not, but it has a substantial transoms. We recently increased the amount of glass in that to help lighten that feature a little bit. We're proposing the black trim in that area, and the railings as black. The windows and the trim around that would be black. The upper portion of the building at the cornice. We have a substantial trim up there. That's very similar to the building we're building right now down on 440 Main Street. We have a low roof type design, which helps keep the profile of the building down as opposed to a pitched roof, which tends to raise it and make it higher. So we are comfortable with this presentation. The different breakup of the windows, we have triple windows together and some double windows together that kind of break up the facade into different areas. And some of the signage in the front would have a gooseneck lighting and carved sign at limited sign locations. We have some oval windows that occurred down in the stairway area there to help add some accent to it. And I'd like to open to any questions or further discussion on the design of the building. The lighting, we're providing the Dickens style lights that you see throughout the village, and that's going to be on Main Street and North Country Road and Thorn Lane. All the lighting will be LED type, as is expected these days. The site lights themselves reflect the type of lights that have been used in the municipal areas of the village.
In addition, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, as you're aware, this elevation that Eric is presenting this evening has had several revisions based on comments and input from your work sessions, and also from the comments we received as a result of the Architectural Review Committee, which has not given their final say based on awaiting the last of the material samples that we anticipate next week. So this is the sort of composite work of everybody with everybody's input. And it is our understanding that everybody at this juncture has decided that they are in favor of this particular design with the revisions that have been made.
Yeah, I think you can say that you've gotten a fair seal of agreement from both the planning board and the ARC on the style of the building. And I think any future comments are just going to be minor revisions to the appearance of it. I think from your team, we could hold all the questions from the planning board until the end. I think that would be good. Prior to planning board questions, I'm going to ask Jen Siegler, who is reviewing the project for the planning department, just to weigh in on some of her comments and concerns before we open it up to questions from the board.
That will be fine. And I don't know if I mentioned it previously, but for interest of the public, we had a mailing required based on the town list that we received of 24 for certified mailing and return receipt cards, and we received 21. So the property was duly notified to all adjoining property owners as to the notification of the hearing, and we returned in the green card receipts and the white receipts, as well as photographs of the posters and the affidavits of mailing and posting. That being said, I would like to move on then now to Patrick Lenahan, who, our traffic engineer, will review the traffic analysis and impact study that he conducted as of April 21 and submitted to you on April 5th. And the study in itself continues to review and look at area parking as to the other projects in the area and prior approvals, as well as current approvals, such as projects for Conifors, which is happening up by the railroad station area in relation to parking and units, et cetera. So at this time, if Pat would move forward, he can review with you his analysis that was requested.
Thank you, Eric. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, this seems like a bit of an echo, but
Okay, someone's got two sources of speaker on then at the
it's
same
better
time.
now.
Okay. Good evening, Chairman DeBias, members of the Planning Board, Council and staff. My name is Patrick Lenahan, Director of Transportation at Long Island's office 100, VHB's Long Island office 100 Motor Parkway in Hopog. We have performed a detailed traffic impact and parking study, which evaluates potential impacts to transportation and parking associated with the redevelopment of the 1 and 17 North Country Road site, which we're looking at this evening. That study, dated April 2021, reflects the currently proposed plan, as there have been several versions, for the site's redevelopment from a restaurant and flower shop to a multifamily rental community with a small level of commercial space. This study was performed in accordance with standard traffic engineering practices. The study evaluated such elements as traffic safety, site access, parking, future volumes and capacity, where we looked at 3 intersections during the weekday AM commuter peak period, the PM commuter peak period, and the Saturday midday peak period, which is traditional for studies of this type. In terms of intersections, if we have the PDF of the study available, if we could put up figure 2, which is page 14 of the total document.
Sure, 1 minute.
If that's possible, that'll give folks an idea of what we're talking about.
Okay, I'll pull it up. Just give me 1 second. Page 14.
It's page 4 after the table of contents. It's page 14 of the total document.
Okay.
Because if we don't put up something, I just have to look at myself.
Yeah, I think I've got it. I'll share it.
Okay.
I know you have it, Lisa.
Well, I know I have it. I think I have what the page he's talking about.
I gotta say, Lisa is like a magician with this stuff. She's very good at it.
I just showed her what eggs to hide in the basket, though.
Okay, so the three red circles present the study area intersections. Main Street at North Country Road to the left and bottom, otherwise known as New York State Route 25A, is Main Street. North Country Road at Thorn Lane and Walnut Street, which is an offset intersection on either side of North Country Road. And North Country Road at Belcher Road, Oakland Avenue, which is the eastern end of the study area right next to Mather Hospital, which we were talking about a few minutes ago. First thing I want to note is that all count data used in the study was collected prior to the onset of COVID. So the traffic data, traffic volumes, any other information, aside from the recently collected parking data, was collected prior to the onset of COVID and will represent conditions when we come out the other side and hopefully get back to normal. Looking at the project site and the project area, a few things are notable. First, the site is currently developed with an almost 4,500 square foot restaurant, which is now closed, the Port Jeff Lobster House as we know it, as well as approximately 2,000 square feet of retail building space at the east end of the site. Both of these uses, which have traffic generating potential of their own, would be eliminated as part of the proposed project. The point is, we're not working on a vacant piece of land here, and we should keep that in mind. Also, the redevelopment of the site as proposed is what is considered transit-oriented development, or TOD. That's mixed-use development located close to mass transit. In this case, we're just under 1,000 feet from the Port Jeff train station. It has been well documented that TOD with convenient access to transit results in significantly lower trip rates as well as parking rates than if any particular use was located elsewhere away from transit. The proximity to the train will reduce personal vehicle travel and also allow many residents to forego a second car and perhaps even a first car, with fewer trips and less parking than development located elsewhere. In our study, we used a 20% reduction in residential trips on the weekday and a 15% reduction on the weekend, and only of the residential portion. Studies indicate that if it's a real high functioning TOD, you can see in excess of a 50% reduction. But we take what we feel is a conservative adjustment to get our worst case. The proposed redevelopment contains multifamily rental housing, and I just wanted to make the point that this particular type of housing generates significantly fewer trips than single-family homes, roughly half or just slightly less. The site access, as the Erics pointed out, one point of access is proposed, and that's access onto Thorn Lane, which in turn provides access to North Country Road. In development of the access plan, there was significant consideration given to where the access should land. The existing site has 2 access points on North Country Road and 1 on Thorn Lane. Through these evaluations, it's been determined that the best and most appropriate location for the site access is on Thorn Lane, as depicted on the proposed plan. This eliminates 2 access points on the major roadway, a safety-related access management measure, and places the modest level of site traffic at an existing intersection midway between the 2 signalized intersections which minimizes potential for blockage. Thorn Lane at North Country Road, as you can see on the figure, is currently equipped with don't block the box pavement markings and related signing. With regard to actual trip making at the site, even in the highest peak hour of generation, we're going to average 1 new trip about every 3 minutes, and that occurs on midday Saturday, when 22 total trips are expected from the site. During the weekday AM peak, we're looking at 12 trips. During the weekday PM peak, 20 trips. And on Saturday, we have those 22 trips. Of course, those are entering plus exiting volumes. The details are in the traffic study. In the performance of the capacity analysis where we evaluated impacts, we took no credit for elimination of the existing uses on the site. It is noted that the existing buildings, if occupied, would generate more traffic than the proposed development would during each of those 3 peak periods, with the exception of the morning. And the reason that the morning is the outlier is because we're assuming that any restaurant that would occupy that space would be closed. If it was something that was open for breakfast, it could be all 3. In terms of impacts, the study finds very little impact anticipated due to the operation of the site as proposed. While we saw in our analysis the existing congestion that occurs in the area at times, at peak times, what we see is very small increases in delay. We're talking in the fractions of seconds of added delay at some isolated movements due to the project at the intersection studied. When we overlay the traffic we anticipate from the proposed site, the impacts are very small. Again, this includes taking no credit for the existing use on the site and is a very conservative assumption engaging of potential impacts. In regard to parking, the site will provide 43 parking stalls total. If the commercial space is considered office, I believe we have 1 additional space over code requirements. If it's considered retail, the parking code is slightly higher, and we fall 1 space short of the code requirement, and the owner would purchase 1 space via the payment in lieu of parking program. In either case, the provided parking will be sufficient to meet the actual parking demands as detailed in the study. First, the parking stalls required for the commercial space, whether it be office or retail, will be vacant and available for residential use when the site parking peak demands are reached in the overnight period. Because the site is dominated by residential uses with only a very small commercial component, residential uses peak parking demands peak after 10:30, 11 o'clock on weekday nights is when we see the highest peaks. But when we consider the parking provided for the commercial space in the overnight period, the effective parking rate available for those residential uses overnight when the site will hit its peak is 1.19 stalls per apartment unit. So it's higher than the code requirements because of the ability to have a shared parking arrangement where we use those other spaces. They'll be free. Although the site is designed meets code requirements with office and is only 1 space shy with retail, additional information regarding peak parking demands is included in the study. The study includes information from the Institute of Transportation Engineers for multifamily residential within 1/2 mile of train stations, such as this one. It includes actual parking demand counts performed at the Hills, which is the multifamily community right in the village on Texaco Avenue, a similar community, very similar to the one proposed in terms of location and unit mix, and it's near the same train station, as well as the data from the files of VHB for 2 other TOD multifamily communities, one near the Farmingdale train station and another one that's located further to the west in Rockville Center near that train station. Those were the studies that I had available in my files from past work that we had done. While all of these sources support that the parking to be provided at One Country will meet peak parking demands, there is some variation in the data. The parking demands all the way to the west in Rockville Center are lower, probably due to the fact that the effect of the attraction of the train station is probably a little stronger because you're so much closer to your destination, which would probably be Manhattan. In my opinion, the Hills, which is the community in the village right around the corner from the proposed project, should be considered the best indicator of parking demand here. I think it's not a stretch to come to that conclusion. Use of this comparable site data results in a peak parking demand at One Country of 35 parked vehicles, if you go by parked vehicles per unit, and 36 vehicles if you break it down and you go by number of bedrooms. As I noted, 43 parking stalls are provided, so I would expect to see 7 to 8 vacant surplus stalls, even at peak demand on the site, which equates to 16%, a vacant 16% surplus of parking. It is my professional opinion that the parking provided, therefore, will meet parking demands at the site without any spillover. And our analysis also validates the application of the relatively new parking code. The parking code is appropriate, in my opinion.
Parking code, just for the record, I double checked after speaking with staff, was adopted as of February 4th of 2019. And that's the current code that you're operating on, that the village board adopted with the input from planning department.
Okay. We just wanted to provide some additional information beyond that, though, to just confirm that in operation we would be fine. We've also received very recently a letter from the Planning Commission where they have issued a finding of local determination with comments. Some of the comments note some methods of further reducing parking demands, pedestrian, bicycle accommodation, that sort of things. It also notes that a traffic study and a parking study should be performed, which I believe we have provided with my April study. And it also notes and confirms the transit-oriented development nature of the project, that is their opinion as well. So in closing, based on our detailed study, it is my professional opinion that the approval and operation of the site as proposed will not result in any significant negative impacts on traffic or parking conditions in the area of the site. And I thank you for the opportunity, and I'm here to answer questions whenever the opportunity arises. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the next representative that we would like to address the board is Sandra Wadaker. She is our landscape designer who has helped design the landscaping proposed on the project and has worked with the Gito group throughout their various projects in the village, and also assisted in doing other landscaping in the village that the Gito group has done on behalf of the village at their expense. So Ms. Wadaker, if she could come forward at this time.
Hi, I'm Sandra Wadaker of Oakville Landscape Design LLC, 21 John Street in Shoreham. I have been asked to do a simple presentation of what was proposed quite a few months ago, and has over some time changed just and been modified as the months have gone by. But, what we see now as the plan can still obviously be modified slightly. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to give a very quick overview of what was basically designed, so that everybody just has just a concept of what is basically on paper. The design and the selection of plant material that was chosen was done so to complement the architecture, as well as to soften the building. There is a provision of some evergreen, quite a lot of evergreens, which will hold throughout the season, especially in the winter months. And there's also pockets of color that really will brighten the intersection, which is obviously very busy, but we have color in there as well. There is the plant material in there that creates a lot of seasonal interest in its selection. I felt that there was a need for simplicity in this design, as well as hardiness, considering where its location is. It conforms well with all the other projects that have been developed by the Jeter Group, in which I've been a part of. And there will be, as I said, pockets of color, pinks, yellows, purples, maroons, blues, whites, that we will get basically with the perennial color. Bearing in mind that a lot of them are pollinators, which is very important in today's world. And there is, succession of bloom to the material. The trees that have been chosen to be nice and slender and not take up a lot of room on sidewalks and up against the building. We're fairly restricted in terms of actual planting space. So, I gave that a lot of thought as well. The material, as I said, will be kept simple. There is, pockets of repeated material to keep it simple. And I think that if you again look at the projects that I have been involved with, especially up at the hills, we've talked about that previously, not far from this site, you will see that same type of landscaping here. I don't know how much more everybody wants to, for me to, explain, are we every single little plant material, but I think that's just sort of an overview of what is here.
Ms. Wadaker, could you just explain to the board the issue, because I think I discussed with you, and I know there were comments back about the landscaping along North Main Street and North Country Road and the sidewalk setback and what could be planted in those areas as required by the state DOT and also the village, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit about what your thoughts are as to those two areas.
Well, I will say that I think we had decided that lawn would be better. That would be basically from the curb to the sidewalk, the strip. And then there would be the sidewalk, and then the main landscaping would be from that sidewalk to the building. Some thoughts had been about creating more of a landscaped area instead of lawn. And that was raised, and I was asked for my comments, and I said, well, it's not that you can't do it. It's just that basically when you're planting right up against a curb and you have the winters that we do have, and you have the snowplows coming around, you've got salt and sand that gets dispersed on top of those plantings. It's a mess in wintertime. I think we can all agree on that. And we feel that with a lawn strip, it at least would look neater over those months, and less of a maintenance. So we still felt that we could do a lawn strip and we could put some trees in it, and that would basically be what is between the sidewalk and the curb. And that the main plantings and landscapings would be from the sidewalk to the building. And that we felt was more needed and required simply because we needed to soften the building.
Thank you. At this time, what I would like to do is ask Robert Gito to sort of just give us the perspective as the applicant, on behalf of the applicant and the development group who is responsible for this project. And I know he has some thoughts to share because we've discussed this project over many months between ourselves and also with you as a board and staff. And Robert at this time would be asked to come forward.
Evening, Rob Gito, the Gito Group, 414 Main Street, Suite 202, Port Jefferson, New York. I want to thank everyone for listening in this evening. Appreciate you taking the time. Our family, we've been part of the Port Jefferson community for over 40 years, and we've been investing in real estate within Port Jefferson for over 30 years now. This would be our 6th property in the village, which would bring us close to 300,000 square feet within the village. And then we also manage one other building in the village for a third party. We're excited to join up with the Morelli family for this potential development. They've been a great partner to work with. We're also hopeful we can build something here that will last and the whole village will be proud of. In regards to, I just want to touch upon 2 items. I know, Pat talked about parking in depth. Obviously, we take parking very seriously. We do not want to build a building or make this type of investment if it's not going to work. And parking is very important to us. We've walked from many projects because we felt the parking wasn't adequate. From our experience with the properties we currently have in the village, as well as other properties throughout Long Island, we're more than confident that the parking here is more than sufficient. Just the other day in my office, received 2 inquiries for 2 separate, 4 medical residents, 2 separate groups. Each one wanted a 2-bedroom, 2 people in each. We didn't have anything at the Hills for them. We told them about our new project, the Brookport, and also the Barnum House, which happened to be full out as well. Long story short, they don't have vehicles. So it's 4 people, 2 bedrooms. Both of them want a 2-bedroom at the Hills or something near there so they can walk to the train station, go to Stony Brook University. So that's the type of person that we're trying to attract and market to here. That's what we have at the Hills. We have several tenants at the Hills that do not have vehicles. With the way Uber and Lyft is, the buses, the train to Stony Brook, this type of project and the proximity to the train station, it would really work. On top of that, some people ask about the need for more apartments. We have the 2 projects, the Hills and the Barnum House, with consistent waiting lists, especially this time of year when the medical residents have their match day in mid-March. You heard Mather speak earlier. They're increasing their medical residency program, and then Stony Brook obviously keeps expanding as well. So all of that being said, there's still a major demand for apartments. The complexes throughout the village, just Port Jefferson alone, all of them are full. If you were to call them any of the developments that are currently up right now, they're full. We're going to be starting our leasing program for the Brookport, which is under construction in Lower Port Jefferson. We currently have a waiting list. We'll see if people are ready to move forward, but we're confident we'll be able to lease there. And then Over Bay, I believe they began their leasing program or are doing quite well, from my understanding. So once again, we feel there's still a need for apartments. We think it's important to build within our own community here. We're long-term investors here. We're not leaving Port Jefferson. We love this community. We love the village. And we look forward to hopefully moving forward with this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I also would just like to point out, because I mentioned it earlier, the Village Planning Board did receive a petition from residents of Thorn Lane, and there were about 16 individuals who had signed on the petition that you received February 4th of 2021. And their concern, it wasn't in opposition to the project, but it was concern focusing on the entrance to the access into and out of the proposed building. I know that's been submitted for the record, and as part of the record, I just want to reference it. But I also want to point out to you that we also brought the project to the attention of the Port Jeff Village Fire Department, and Mr. Gito, Rob himself, provided it, discussed with them. I know that they responded back, and maybe Rob, you could share what the outcome of that was.
Yeah, talking to the fire department, they do prefer the entrance and exit of the property being on Thorn Lane. That works best for their access. We offered them, 2 different alternatives, and they felt that is the best for life safety for them to access through Thorn Lane. And besides that, everything else at the project they feel is quite accessible for their needs in the case of any type of emergency.
In addition, as was always been a concern and a talking point with the village planning staff and with your board, the Port Jeff Village Comprehensive Master Plan update for Upper Port of 2030, talks about how this project is to be viewed and how it would comply with the plan. And based on the design and the revisions that we've put in, it is our position and feeling that we are now in keeping with that master plan update. And as I said earlier, this project is zoning compliant, and it like the Conifers project that was approved by this board in September of 20 and amended November of 20, and again in February of 21, everybody is trying to move towards the goal of improving the Upper Port area. And this project, along with the Hills and that one that you've previously approved with design and concept, is going to bring it over the line and continue to try and upgrade the Upper Port area, which is the sought after goal of the village board and the village mayor. So I thank you again for giving us the time this evening. And I know you'll open it up to the public and your staff comments. And just for the record, I appreciate the fact that you swore everybody in who has testified this evening, who appeared before you, and based on their resumes that I submitted to you, you've recognized them as credible witnesses. So again, I thank you for your time and I appreciate all of your input. And we did submit, I think I stated earlier, maybe I didn't, all the necessary documentation that was required and requested by your board for this hearing tonight. So thank you again.
Okay, thanks for the presentation. I think you covered all the major aspects of the project in a concise manner. I'm sure we'll be addressing this or hearing questions from both the board and public participants. But before we go to that, I'd like to bring in Jen Siegler from the planning department, see if Jen has any initial things to add or any comments to make so far on the presentation of the applicant.
I just have a couple. I think the applicant has responded well to both comments from the planning board and from the ARC. In particular, I think everyone was pleased to see an expanded retail component on the ground level in response to comments in the past. Expanding it along Main Street is not possible because of the significant grade change, but it now extends for about half of the North Country Road facade. And I think that that's a very positive revision. As Rob pointed out, or I'm not sure, well, yes, people in the residency program at Mather will be able to walk to work quite easily. And the Suffolk County Planning Commission, in terms of their comments about parking, I just wanted to add that they do very much encourage shared parking as a way to sort of mitigate, delegating space to parking. The board has a number of some housekeeping issues. I just want to remind the board at the last meeting, we looked at the proposed setbacks to both the RO and the RB2 to the north. And for the record, I guess maybe some of you have visited the site since. We'll need to establish that you're okay with those. I think that's about it for my comments now. I would like to continue the discussion about landscaping plantings. Our department has been discussing, so Lisa informed us of a great term that the planting strip next to the curb, it's called a hell strip by a lot of folks. And there do seem to be, I think, viable alternatives to lawn. And the lawn requires water maintenance, doesn't respond well to dog urine or salt either. So perhaps further investigation of plantings. And I just want to note very close to your project, the island at the North Country Road, Oakland, and Belcher Road intersection. Very busy intersection. It is planted with perennials. It gets no water, gets a lot of abuse, and they're coming back very nicely already. So I think it is possible. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. And yeah, I just want to reiterate that it's largely important, I think, pedestrian comfort. If we are encouraging a walking community, that pedestrian comfort along these very busy arterial streets is important. And landscaping, particularly because we have more of an opportunity to provide a landscape buffer on North Country Road, maybe deserves a little more attention. Okay, I think that's all I have for now.
All right, board members, questions for the applicant or any of the presenters? Wow, okay. Laura?
I'm sorry, I couldn't get to the unmute fast. I just wanted to ask VHB, sorry, Mr. Lanahan, how many parking spaces are on North Country across the street from this project?
I believe there are 7 with a 2-hour limit.
Okay.
On the south side.
And then there's no parking on Thorn Lane, correct?
It's not posted for no parking. So there are, every once in a while you'll see a residential vehicle that's kind of hugging the grass. But I don't believe it occurs to a great extent. If there is any concern, I think we've illustrated that the folks who live at and visit our site will be able to find parking in the site interior. But if there is any concern beyond that, and if it would make the board or the neighborhood feel better, to post some stretch of Thorn Lane with no parking, a no parking restriction, if the village would see its way to pass such an ordinance, I'm sure I could convince the developer to install the signs.
Okay, and then I know we've talked about this at other meetings. I just want to bring it up here just in case some of the Thorn Lane neighbors are there. Are there any plans to upgrade Thorn Lane or do any improvements on Thorn Lane?
The plan includes curb along the west side, along the entire site frontage. The driveway is just short of 80 feet from North Country. So there would be curbing and sidewalk there as shown on the architect's plan. Beyond that, there is not.
Thank you.
We sort of wanted to be as least impactful to the nature and character of Thorn Lane as we could.
I do have a question about that curbing. Is it possible to angle out from on the west side of Thorn Lane towards North Country just to give it a little bit more maneuverability on Thorn Lane?
It is, right now Thorn Lane isn't exactly a wide street. It's 21 to 24 feet. It varies because there is no curbing. If you were to look at Eric's site plan, there is several feet between where he shows the proposed curb and the proposed sidewalk. There is opportunity there to widen it. I believe that came up with the fire department. I think operationally it's wide enough given the level of traffic we're looking for. But I wasn't part of the conversation, but maybe Eric or Rob could chime in because we considered it at one time. And then I believe the fire department indicated that they thought it was sufficient.
Yeah, at first glance, the fire department first said, I think we may ask for that portion of Thorn to be widened, which we were open to. Then they came back and they said, no, that's not necessary. So that's where we're at now.
So with the painted "Don't Block the Box" at that intersection, which occasionally does get blocked, is
Yes.
there anything that can be done to draw more attention to the fact that there's a box there and it shouldn't be blocked? You know,
Sure.
there's a sign, there's the painted pavement, but is there anything else that can be done?
There are several different standards that the town uses, that the county uses, that the state uses in striping out the box. Some of them are more pronounced than others. I don't know sitting here if the village has a particular standard, but certainly we could restripe it. We could make it more pronounced. We could potentially, I would check and make sure that the signs are appropriate. They've been there for some time. The manual that dictates such things is updated once in a while. They could potentially be made larger. So there are things that could make the "Don't Block the Box" more pronounced to the motorist, certainly.
That would help, because I believe some people misjudge how traffic is moving going west, and you just roll into the box and then all of a sudden they're at a stop. So perhaps that would help the residents of Thorn Lane to get in and out.
Yeah, and we can make it more conspicuous for sure.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Laura, did you have another? Oh, I thought I saw your hand go up. Okay, I should mention too, and I've mentioned this before at the work sessions, that we talked about the comprehensive plan that was adopted. It's getting close to 10 years ago now. It projected conditions and looked at Upper Port in the year 2030. And as part of that plan, one of the components, and this is something that not under this project, but could be addressed under future projects along Main Street and Upper Port, is the reversal of Perry Street to go one way toward Main Street with a traffic signal at Perry and Main. This would facilitate that traffic backup on North Country Road at Main Street. As everybody knows, there's a heavy left turn, and that's the majority of the traffic coming toward Main Street on North Country is trying to make a left to go south on Main Street. The idea behind Perry was to make that one-way eastbound, so that would take theoretically half the traffic. It could,
Westbound.
Westbound, I'm sorry. Thanks, John. It would theoretically take half the traffic backup that's currently waiting for a green signal to turn left from North Country to southbound Main, and move that traffic over to Perry. So it would split. It would be an opportunity to get traffic onto Main and heading across the tracks and further south. If no other board members have questions, we'll now introduce public comment. Lisa is going to scan the waiting list or the number of people who may want to be admitted to ask questions. And just to those who do ask questions, we'll try to get a rough idea of how many people there are. We may limit the time on that depending on the number, because we do have other items on the agenda after this. But please let time, introduce yourself, name and address, and you'll be sworn in by the stenographer.
Okay.
Do you have a rough handle on how many people you have there?
There are 12 people in the waiting room. There are 3 people with their hands up currently. There are a couple of comments that were typed in.
Yes, saw those.
I think they've largely actually been responded to by the applicant through the discussion, but at some point perhaps we'll read them into the record. But if you want, I will bring the first attendee in. I have the name Don here. I will promote to panelist.
Okay. And while that's being done, we'll actually try to limit comments to 3 minutes. I know that sounds like a short period of time, but if you focus on the main points you'd like to ask, you can actually get something substantial done in 3 minutes. We'll make it an informal time limit at this point, but we really like you to try to try to get to your point and ask your questions, and you'll get a response on that. Okay, if Don is present, can you introduce yourself, name and address, and you'll be sworn in.
Great. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we are.
All right,
Do you
great.
have a
Good evening.
camera or not?
It doesn't seem to be working. My apologies
Okay.
for that.
That's
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Don Pollock. I live on 40 Old Homestead in Port Jefferson, clearly. Just a couple of quick questions in terms
okay.
of.
We'll just ask you to get sworn in first.
Okay, great.
Could you spell your last name first for me?
It's P as in Peter, AWLUK.
Raise your right hand, even though we can't see you. Raise your right hand.
It's raised.
Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. Certainly very familiar with the Gito family. I grew up with several of the boys. So, certainly recognize all the devotion and everything that they've done to, better the village. I do have a couple of questions, though, just in terms of the overall project as a whole. We are seeing continued amount. It seems as if really the only option to build in this village at this time is for new apartments. I know Rob did briefly mention about obviously having waiting lists and whatnot. It was my understanding that the shipyard is not at capacity. And then obviously we still have Overbay. We have the new one that's coming up by the tracks. My only fear is, are we building too many apartments for demand? And then in turn, is it something that's going to negatively impact our community? Because now we have open apartments, which then obviously leads to lower rent, would lead to a different, potential different element of people that would be, essentially renting. I think that that's probably something that's been addressed already, but we're just kind of curious around that. And then just my second question to that, around that point is, why does it always have to be rental units? Has there been anything done to look at like co-ops or even condos? I just think that when somebody has an ownership stake, they're obviously more tied to the community as a whole. And obviously you're, here longer than a 1 or 2 year lease term. So I just think that for the overall good of the community and a lot of the different programs that are available, like the golf course, et cetera, would certainly benefit from an ownership side versus just a rental side. So I apologize for a little bit of my run-on sentence there, but those are really my two big questions right there.
Oh, okay. Thanks for your question. First, I'd just like to say that the apartments uptown are consistent with the comprehensive plan that we've been mentioning. But I'll throw over to Rob Gito the question for the rest of the answers.
Sure. Hi, Don. Thanks for calling in. I can't see you. Nice to hear from you. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, good to see you, Rob. Hope all is well with you and your family.
Yeah, to answer your question, I shouldn't misspeak for the shipyard. My understanding is that they were at or obviously very close to capacity. I may be wrong. Some of that might have to do with their price point. It is definitely in the highest end of the village at this point. So that might be the reason why they have a little bit of vacancy. I should only really just speak about our properties where we do have consistent waiting lists. And, one thing, we've had the Barnum House is coming up on 20 years now. And we've had 3 tenants. There's only 30 apartments, but 3 of the tenants there have actually been there since day one, which is remarkable. And so they've been here longer than probably most of our residents are. So it's quite impressive. And, jumping around a little bit, the tenants, the residents, the rental residents do have the ability to join the country club. I've worked with the country club in trying to get our tenants to consider joining as members to help build the membership. We hand out flyers, we send out email blasts. So we do work with the village to try to get our residents involved with the community. And then, building upon that aspect, one thing that we keep seeing over and over again is we see a single person or a couple move in to one of these apartments. And then they have a child. Typically, because we have mostly 1 bedrooms or the 2 bedrooms aren't extremely large, by the time they have a second child or that first child gets to a school age, these people are growing out of the apartment and they're looking for more space. And what they're doing, a lot of them, is they're buying condos or homes within the village and truly becoming part of the community. So I feel like that's kind of the story here, and it really does happen and it works. We currently have 104 apartments between the two complexes. The Brookport, we haven't begun leasing yet, but we have one school-age child at the building, at both buildings combined right now. So we're not impacting the schools yet. Tax dollars obviously going to the district, which is great. But you could find a single family home in Port Jeff where someone moves in and they have 5 kids, which is substantially more than we have out of 104 apartments. So I feel it does work. There's definitely a demand that I could speak of on my own. And we do see that demand growing as Stony Brook increases their size, Mather Hospital. And I agree, that maybe there should be some condos or co-ops. That's not something that we get involved with. That's not an investment that we've spent any time doing. There are other developers in the community that have done that successfully. I lived in a condo in Port Jeff, and I was very happy. So, I agree that there probably will be a market for that, but currently, there is a huge market for more apartments. The master plan, I believe, Ray, you probably know better than I do, but I think it said there was a need potentially for 500 more apartments. So looking where we're at right now, I think there's still a demand, according to the master plan that was done by mostly residents and design professionals. There's probably still room. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but for 250 to 300 more units beyond what's being proposed here. We're not going to do any more, I promise, but we have enough going on in the village and we love the village, but we're confident that the demand is there long-term. We're proud of the product we build. You can ask any of our tenants. We've had tenants that may have left and gone to other complexes in the area that quickly call and come back. I have nothing negative to say about these other complexes, but we've had that happen time and time again. So that's it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rob. Want to admit the next person, Lisa?
Sure. Just before I do, Don, I see that there's another Donald Pollock with the hand up. Do you have 2 accounts open possibly right now?
No, that's my father.
Okay, making sure.
I just wanted to be on the record that I got in ahead of him on the questions.
Okay, good. I didn't want to ignore that, but I also didn't want to make you twice.
Was possible.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
You're going to admit Don Sr., Lisa?
Yes, I will admit Don Sr. then. All right. So I've admitted Don Sr.
He appears to be muted.
Let's ask him to unmute. If you can hear us, please unmute so that we can hear you.
Yes, this is Don Sr. speaking.
Hi, we can hear you.
Yeah.
My son's
Hi, Don. If you could just give your name and address.
Donald Pollock Sr., 7 Corey Court, Port Jefferson.
If you don't mind, I'll swear you in.
Not a problem.
Raise your virtual hand.
It's done.
Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
My son is a lot quicker on the computer than I am. My first question has to deal with the entrance and exits, okay, from the apartment. Is the only one on Thorn Avenue?
Yes.
Yes, I can address that. The exit, there is a secondary exit that's, I'm sorry if we're speaking of the apartment entrance and exit from the building itself. Was that the question?
No, from the parking lot.
Yes, from the parking lot.
From the parking lot, correct. There's the one curb cut.
The reason why is I wonder if anybody on the board has spoken to any of the residents, okay, on Thorn Avenue, because they have the hardest time, okay, just to get in and out of their street. Okay, one of the gentlemen had come to most of the village meetings and kept bringing up the fact that the box is always, not sometimes, almost always blocked. Suffolk County has not enforced it, and if they do try to enforce the blocking of the box, okay, they come with a marked car, okay, and he sits there on North Country Road, and everybody stays out of the box while he's sitting there. Okay, this is going to create a huge problem in and out. It also creates a problem, okay, coming west, okay, from either Main Street or sheep pasture, okay, heading east, okay, to make a left-hand turn into Thorn, okay, because now it's the box is blocked. The car is waiting to try to make a left-hand turn for the traffic to clear. And now it starts backing up the traffic that's turning right off of, okay, either Main Street or coming across from sheep pasture. All right, I see it as a huge problem. I know from traffic studies that intersection fails. Okay, but it doesn't fail with a 20, it doesn't fail with a 10, okay, although it should. But it fails because you have to wait more than one light. Okay, there are times that you wait 4 lights coming eastbound, okay, before you get through it. But it's going to be a huge traffic problem. And I think that I'm always very happy with the Gito projects because they come out nice. Okay, they're done well. Okay, I know Rob and I have spoken many times about this. Okay, and I appreciate he has always, been able to answer my questions. But I think there really has to be, and I'm getting very wordy here, but I think there really has to be more consideration that box does nothing.
Okay, Don, thank you. Pat Lenahan had indicated earlier that he can look into some potential restriping of that box area. But also the signing needs to be upgraded. The don't block the box sign. That needs to be upgraded to a more standard sign, which would help as well. Laura, you had a comment?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like trying to jump in. What would it help if it was those lighted things that you see on the, so sometimes when there's pedestrian traffic crossing the road, they'll have light up signs that light up, or not signs, lights that come out from the ground so that you can see that there's actually a crosswalk. I'm wondering if perhaps, I have no idea technically if it would work, but if there's a possibility of having some sort of a light that blinks whenever the traffic light turns red, or something more visual that would create more of a, wow, this is really a barrier that I should not enter.
Laura, anything would be an improvement. Okay, but unfortunately, okay, there still has to be enforcement of it. Okay, and there, for all of the years that the box has been there, there has not been, okay, anything, okay, that works. And I see somebody's coming on and telling me that they've never seen a marked police car there. I have lived in Port Jefferson since 1972. I have great eyesight, and I have seen the marked car, the marked car, not the unmarked car, on numerous occasions. Second question, and I'll make this a quick one. I wasn't able to catch the setback, okay, on North Country Road and on Route 112. If you can just reiterate that information to me, I'd appreciate it.
Don, when you say setback, what exactly do you mean there? The building setback from?
Building setback. Building setback.
The building is setback 12.8 feet from the curb line. The zoning requirement is 12 feet. So from the property line, it's about 2.5 feet, and then another 2 feet. There's a bump out in the building. So, but it's the closest point is 12 foot 12 foot 9 from the curb.
Okay. I thank you very much, and I appreciate the answers to the questions and the opportunity to ask them.
All right, thanks, Don. And we can ask the applicant's traffic engineer to look into anything further that could be done to enforce to the motorists that there's a do not block the box sign and they shouldn't be in it. Lisa, could you admit the next person?
Yes, I see somebody's raising their hands. They're labeled FXB Home. I'll promote them to panelist.
Okay.
Okay, FXB Home, if you can unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Hi. How
Hi.
are you? Can I be seen and heard?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, my name is Frank. Go ahead. Do I need to be sworn in first?
Yes. Go ahead.
Can you
Name,
raise my
address.
right hand?
Just give me your name first and spell it, please.
Francis, Francis, Burke, Burke,
And your address?
18 Sands Lane, Port Jefferson.
And you got your hand raised, so we'll go from there. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay. In addition to being a resident in Port Jeff of 40 years, I'm also the landowner of the contiguous property there on Main Street, on the corner of Main and High Street. Dr. Bloom's old house, for those of you who have been around for a while. One comment I would like to make, first of all, is that I don't share your optimism on the flow of traffic there. I know you have your traffic studies, but I can tell you, I've been there in that building with my office staff since 1986. And staff routinely take alternate routes to avoid that entire section. I've had people that come from, let's say, the Stony Brook area that come in, they use Sheep Pasture Road, they'll go down Reeves Road and come up and then come into my office building there, only to avoid that spot. So more than anything else, I would tell you that's just a comment about that. And as far as upgrading the signage and the striping of that box area, I'm not sure what you're going to be able to do because that's very close to a state road and it is controlled by New York State in terms of what you do and what you can stripe and what signs you can put up. You just can't put any signs up you want, as far as I know. They've got to be approvable signs and they've got to be, approved by the Department of Transportation, particularly when you're within 100 feet of a state road. Now, all of that is something the lawyers will need to address. But overall, my comment is that I don't share your optimism. But the real comment that I have is that I have a parking lot there. I don't know if are you members of the board aware of the parking lot I'm talking about, right on the corner of High Street and Main. And we have a problem from time to time with people coming in and parking right in our parking lot. And it's an enormous pain to have to monitor and enforce that, because the only thing left to do on a private lot is to hire a tow truck to tow people out. And it's something I really like to avoid. My concern, and I'll leave you with this, but my concern is that the number of violations we have in the parking lot is going to increase dramatically as people move into these places. What are they going to do with the truck that they brought? I just see it as a problem. So I'm going to leave that with you. In sum, I don't share your optimism on the traffic situation in North Country and Sheep Pasture, and I'm concerned about my parking lot. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
All right. I'll go off on that.
Okay. Lisa, next.
If anyone else would like to make a comment and speak directly to the board, you can click the raise hand icon. I will promote you to panelist. At this moment, I don't see anyone with a hand up. Alternatively, you can also type comments into the chat feature. I do see comments that were typed there previously. If while we give people a minute to figure out how to raise their hands, we want to read those various comments into the record, we could do that.
Okay, why don't we see if anybody raises first and then we'll go through the comments.
Okay.
Nothing yet.
No, at this point, no one is raising a hand indicating that they want to talk.
Let's go to the comments. I think everybody who's on can view them. Is that correct? By
Yes.
clicking the chat at the bottom.
Are they all made part of the record, or do we have to read them in to get them into the record?
We will need to read them in, which
I think that would be best. There's not a lot of them. I've written them down, but I think Lisa must read them in for the stenographer.
Yes, if you could do that, Lisa. And I see Dina has made 4 comments. So if you could read all 4.
Yeah, so I can read the 4 that Dina made, and then Don also made comments, but that reflected similar to what he said. So Dina wrote, first, how are 43 parking spaces enough for 36 apartments and retail?
Lisa, I think you have to slow down for the court stenographer.
She's good.
She's good. She can read them too. The second is, what about residents of Thorn Lane's access to North Country? It is not an accurate comparison to the current traffic generated by the florist with the access to Thorn Lane. And then Dina's other 2 comments were, what about guest parking for the residents of the apartments? Where are their parking spaces? Are there going to be no parking signs on Thorn Lane? And finally, I've lived on Thorn Lane for 9 years and have never seen a marked police car at the intersection. There's always an issue turning on and off Thorn Lane.
Okay. I think Pat Lenahan maybe is the responsible person to answer the first 2.
It's always the traffic guy. I
That's
think
because
maybe
you're so debonair.
I think maybe the first 3, Mr. Chairman, if I could. 43 parking spaces enough for 36 apartments and retail. I would invite the comment poster to read the traffic study. There's a lot of detail in the traffic study. First, we have a shared parking situation. As I spoke about, the retail and the residential components of the site do not peak at the same time. When the apartments peak in the late evening, sometime around 10:30, 11 o'clock p.m., the retail, or if it winds up being office space, is closed, and there's no need for parking for them. In addition, the proximity to the train station makes this TOD, transit-oriented development, and we know that in addition to generating fewer vehicle trips, it also generates fewer parked cars and less parking demand. And in that regard, we presented a significant amount of information in the traffic study, including from the hills right around the corner. With the bedroom mix and the train station being an almost identical situation to what we propose. And all that data supports the fact that the 43 parking spaces will be plenty, and in fact, we'll have a surplus. Residents of Thorn Lane's access to North Country, and not an accurate comparison. I don't think I compared the florist to the proposal directly. I also didn't compare it to the traffic on Thorn Lane. The point was that the proposed use, we can expect to generate less traffic than what's there currently if let's say the Lobster House was reoccupied, with the exception of the AM peak period. There will be an increase in traffic on Thorn Lane. The report details that it's a modest increase, and the study takes that into account. Pre-COVID, they indicate people are commuting less, so the facts around the cars is no longer true. Well, if people are commuting less, we'll have even less traffic. We look at the worst case when we do these things. 12 cars leaving in the morning. The science behind the calculation of the trips is sound and well founded. So I stand behind that. In addition, the TOD will reduce the traffic to an extent, and we took very small, comparatively small credits for the effect of the TOD, and we took no credit for the existing uses on the site. I just want to say one more time, with the exception of the AM peak period, because of the restaurant likely being closed, this will generate less traffic than what's there now. So when we talk about, I understand Thorn Lane and the don't block the box, and we're going to look at that and do the absolute best that we can do there. We understand the situation. But in terms of traffic impacts of this particular site, if I wanted to be less conservative, I could make the case that this will be an improvement in traffic flow on North Country Road. We're taking driveways that are close to a signal where recurrent backups occur. We're moving the entrance further back from Main Street to 275 feet. The concern regarding DOT, taking somewhat command of what goes on there, we're plenty far away where the village can approve what we do there. And I guess I took 3 or 4 of them, but I'll throw it back to you, Ray.
Okay, did you get the guest parking, the third one?
Sure. Parking codes inherently require more than what's actually expected to occur at the site. That's the way codes are built. You wouldn't want to build a site that's so tight up against the actual demand that there's no expansion for guests. So there will be 16% surplus. We expect, as I said, and as detailed in the traffic study. Sometimes people worry about holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas, and when people it looks like people could have large gatherings, but the fact of the matter is these apartments are very small, and what you're going to see around the holidays is there'll be a lot more people that leave than come to go to their friend's house, their mom's house, for those bigger events.
Okay, I guess the other part of that is, are there going to be no parking signs on Thorn Lane? We can certainly consider that adjacent to your site, at least on the lower part of Thorn Lane.
Or as far as the residents there want us to take it. That's up to them, whatever makes them feel comfortable. But if we go too far, we'll deny them the ability to park in the road.
Just a point of information from the Board of Trustees, we just passed a no parking in a new zone down near the new Barnum lot because there were some new or recurring parking issues there on the street. So that could be something that concerned residents could approach the Board of Trustees and Village Hall about.
Good point. Okay, Dina's final comment. She asked about, has never seen a marked police car at the intersection. We've already had testimony about that. And we know there's an issue turning on or off Thorn Lane. That's been documented as well.
Ray, if I can interject, it's another comment on the traffic. Somebody actually just called my phone line at the desk who was having trouble connecting, can watch on YouTube, but can't connect to the Zoom for some reason. So Mark Robinson wanted me to note that he was one of the residents of Thorn Lane who submitted the petition, and he stands by, and every resident in Thorn Lane signed that petition, which the board has already seen. And he reiterated many of the points, agreeing with Don Pollock, noting that he felt the traffic study only looked at traffic when the hospital let out, when it's slow, but actually there's always very fast traffic coming down that road as people speed through towards Stony Brook. He stated that he thought a light was needed at that intersection and enforcement, and that while Thorn Lane is a small group of people, they're going to be heavily impacted. So he was hoping that those remarks would be conveyed to the board. I encouraged him to also submit them in writing so you could see his full comments.
Okay, very good.
Ray?
Yes.
I just wanted to add the traffic study and the application itself, the plans, they have not been posted anywhere for the public to look at, but I'm happy to do so. Maybe put it on the village website so that people, rather than come here, can download them and look at them themselves. Yeah,
that would
okay.
be good. It's easier.
Yep. Okay.
If
Will
you
do.
have a printer at home, or you can actually read it.
Yep.
If you don't have a printer. We had 2 comments from Don. I don't know which, if it was one of the 2 Dons has already been on, or if it's a different Don, but we'll go through them. The first one, I think you already covered this one, Pat, right? The study was done pre-COVID, and you talked about commuting.
Yes.
Since then, 12 cars leaving in the morning and evening is consistent with what you found, and some of that is because the retail is not in operation at that point. That's primarily residential traffic at that point. Okay. The next comment is why more apartments? We have 2 new apartment complexes that have not been occupied.
Rob Gito answered that.
I was about to say, Rob Gito has answered that. Additionally, 75% of millennials have said they plan to buy homes in the next 2 years. Okay. Seems like we're heading toward having more apartments than demand. And again, just a general comment that having more apartments uptown is consistent with the comprehensive plan. You see any late people want to come in, Lisa?
Let me ask one more time. If anyone is in the waiting room as an attendee and would like to make a comment, please hit the raise hand icon and I will bring you in.
And like Lisa's doing that, as Lisa's doing that, I just want to remind everybody that anybody who wants to make a written comment, that comments can be received or dropped off at the Village Planning and Zoning Department at 88 North Country Road up to 10 days from now. So that would be, yeah, I can add. It's the 18th of April, which I think is, I was going to say a week from Friday, but it's probably a week from Saturday. But anyway, it's the 18th.
It's a Sunday.
It's a Sunday.
I had 2 chances, didn't get it.
Is there a way people can email comments in, or do they have to be on paper?
They can email them to me at csuarez@portchef.com.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Board meeting.
I'm sorry?
The next board meeting is Thursday, May the 6th for
That's
this
correct.
application at 6:30.
That's correct. If anyone wants to tune in, or, we'll be discussing, we have a lot of material to go through.
Do we have to make a motion to keep the hearing open?
Yes. Yeah,
Should-
actually,
Can I-
thanks.
Can I motion that we keep the public hearing open until our next meeting on May 6th?
Yes, we'll adjourn the hearing to May 6th. Can I get a second on that? I think Gil just said yes, but his mic was off.
Yeah, he's nodding.
Now he's nodding, so I guess that means that's a double yes.
Oh, no.
Okay, all in favor of that? Say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We
right.
appreciate your time and that of your staff.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now go back to our agenda. I think we'll continue on with the applications and then go back and do the discuss the minutes and get the trustee report at the very end.
Excuse me, Ray, can we have this Debbie sign off, the stenographer?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, public hearing is over, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
You
Thank
too.
you, Debbie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.
No problem.
Okay, next item is 217 West Broadway. If you want to just read that in, the particulars, Cindy, and then we'll get going on that.
Okay, 217 West Broadway, site plan amendment, application number 0615-21, location south side of West Broadway, the prior boatyard, Suffolk County tax map number, District 206, Section 11, Block 6, Lot 25.1, zoning C1 commercial, applicant Overbay LLC, care of Demetrius Tunis, property owner Overbay LLC, contact Demetrius Tunis, description proposed dog walk, and the action is to review the new application.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry, Cindy.
I was just going to say,
Oh,
Mr.
please.
Tunis is in the waiting room, so I can promote him to panelist if you would
Okay,
like.
that would be good. I guess you should get ready to show because since you just distributed the plans today, get ready to
Yes,
put those up if you can.
I will. They are very small change, but there is maybe can be better described by Jim. Hold on
Okay.
one second. Let's see. Mr. Tunis, if you're here, you can unmute. It's possible that he logged in and didn't know when the hearing would end. Let's see. Oh,
I'm here.
okay, excellent.
Hello. I didn't wait that long to get cut off.
Yeah.
How you doing, everyone? How are you?
Doing well.
Good.
Happy April. Happy April, everyone.
It could have been longer, but it wasn't. So
It was fun. It was interesting. I enjoyed it.
it is an interesting project.
Yes.
As is your project. So
Yes. Can
while
you see me or you can't see me?
we cannot.
Why?
Is,
All right.
is there a lens cap?
No. I don't know. No, there isn't. I don't know why. My dog may have pulled this out. I don't know. But anyway, you can hear me, right? You don't have to see.
Yes.
You believe me, you don't want to see me.
Okay.
As long as you can hear me, we're
And
all good.
I will share this screen here so that we can see what we're focused on. So this is a pretty small change, which is why I didn't do a full staff report for it. But the proposed area is up here, it's bubbled. The proposal is for a fence to go here, for the removal of some of this landscaping so that it can be grassed, and the replacement of these hollies with arborvitae to create an area where there could be a dog walk, is my understanding. I don't know if you have further description or explanation.
Yes, Patricia Hopkins put this together. She's going to actually be doing all the plantings, qualified arborvitaist, I guess, in the area. And we have signed a number of leases, and, people are looking for places to walk their dog. There's already a fence on the east side of the property, and the building would be on the west side of the dog walk. So we would only have to put up a small gated fence by the stairway at the exit of the building. We would continue to plant the same amount of plantings, except for the substitution of the with the arborvitaes. So everything else would remain the same. I think it's a good spot. It allows people to, to walk their dogs. It seems like a logical spot to me, out of the way, and obviously we'll maintain it.
Okay, so Jim, is that about a 5 foot wide area? It's hard to tell on the plan.
No, it's a little bit larger than that. I think the stairway is about 3 going down, so it looks like it's at least 8 feet.
Okay.
That's the only reference I have to go to.
Mm-hmm.
But we could stipulate, an minimum of an 8 foot, width there. And then I think we have 12 feet to the north, that area, or maybe it's only 10 feet.
Okay, and that's totally outside the wetlands area, it looks like.
Yes, and that's another reason. Most of that wetlands has been disturbed, as you know. I mean, not only by me, but by the previous owner. So we're going to be revegetating that entire area as per the approved plans. I've gone over that with Patty, and that's, definitely something that, we've actually already ordered all the plants, and we plan on planting in the next, 3 to 5 weeks. So the fence is going to come down, and we're going to have a nice spruced up site with landscaping.
Okay.
Right.
Lisa, you want to weigh in with any questions or concerns?
Wait, Lisa, can you talk about the original plans show some sort of a surface pond there?
Yeah, so
I feel like we've had discussions about this area several times, and I wish that we'd had more notice about this, because I'd love to go back and see what our discussions were about that area, because it seems like it's not really conforming to what we approved. In terms of I'm not talking about landscaping or in general, I'm just saying that that looks like it's supposed to be an area designated, for something. If you could discuss.
Yeah, so that was the one thing I noted, is that on these site plans, this area was designated as actually as a surface pond on one of them. It was like a supplemental drainage area that was to be planted with the idea that periodically it might contain supplemental drainage when needed, was our explanation originally with the site plan. And I don't know how this impacts that element.
Yeah, it's a dry swale. That's what would be in there, and I believe it's pitched, and it would only be in the case of a huge rainfall. And I think if you go back to one of the previous pictures that you were on, it'll show the width to the existing fence, and I think I saw 12 feet. Yeah, if you could go back. I guess to the first one you were on.
So, Jim, you're saying that the plantings aren't going to be in that area? That's not where
No, they will be, but they'll be on the exterior. Yeah, so we have 12 feet. And that's why we're putting in the arborvitae. So the arborvitae would go up against the building and up against the fence, and in the middle would be the grass walk area. And that would also be a dry swale. So I don't think it would have any impact on the use of that area.
So, for lack of a better term, that area is indented. Is that?
Yeah, it's like, I'm using my hands like you can see me, but it's just like a little swale.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly what you just did, Laura. That little little thing there.
And that's where you plan on having a dog walk, in that area?
Yes. Yeah. So we do have 12 feet there between the building and the fence.
And I'm not going to say the term right, the landscape architect,
Mm-hmm.
do they believe that the plantings will survive if there is a rainfall that floods them?
Yes, I mean, she's really good at what she does, and she said they would survive better than the other plants that were going to be there. And Laura, here's the thing, I'm going to own this building. So obviously, if something happens to the plants, if they die, I'm going to replace them. But I don't anticipate them dying, but I just wanted to give you a little safety gate there.
Jim, if I may,
Sure.
How wide do the arborvitae, because you mentioned the arborvitae are going to be up against the fence and also up against the building. The plans you showed earlier had the arborvitae at about 6 foot high. How wide are they going to be diameter wise?
I would imagine they'll be about 30 inches.
Okay.
And we'll keep them trimmed. So that would give roughly, a 6 foot dog walk. And it's a pretty long walk right there. And it does start at the other side of the building, Gil.
Yep.
If you go back to the original plan.
Yeah.
Okay, this sounds like a field visit for a couple of board members to take a look at this, as well as staff, I think.
And sorry, Ray, Lisa, does this still provide the screening that's necessary?
The presumption is that the arborvitae are going along the fence. So I think that is a fair question, and there are more arborvitae proposed compared to the holly because they're a narrower plant. So I believe the intention is to maintain the screening.
Okay.
I do think that a site visit may be worthy to look at that space and see how practical the request is.
I agree.
Was
Sorry,
there-
Ray, I keep interrupting.
Was there a sample of the fencing?
It'll just be a black chain link fence, or if you want an estate fence, Gil, we could put up an estate fence. Probably an estate fence. It's not a long area. So I think I'll commit to that. We'll make it a black wrought iron estate fence. Is that a fence that's allowable in the village?
Could be. I don't know, we'll have to look into that. Okay. Any other questions on that?
I do have one question. Is it for the tenants use only?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And if the swell's being eliminated, so does that affect the drainage calculations?
No, the swale wouldn't be eliminated. It would still be there.
Okay.
So it's like a combination use as both a dog walk and a drainage swell.
Yes. Yes. And if you want, if you want to email me or text me when you're going down there, I'd be more than happy to meet with you. And I could try and get Patty to be there too.
Okay, that would be good. Maybe you can coordinate with Lisa. Lisa can sign up 2 planning board members to go out there and then get to you with the date, time.
That would be great. Thank you, Ray.
Okay. Any other questions at this point? Okay, thank you, Jim.
Okay, do you want me to, do you want to, I know on your agenda, I noticed that the next one is the property on Bayless, which I own. So
That's you.
I don't know if you want to discuss that a little.
It's a referral from the town of Brookhaven. I'm going to have a couple of comments for the referral. I don't know if the other board members are as well. I don't see any problem with you staying on and answer questions.
Okay, you ready for me to bring up the
Yes.
the referral? Okay, one second.
Is Jim still on?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear
I'm
me?
sorry. When you don't talk, your name disappears. So I just saw a black square without a name. So sure.
I don't know why my camera isn't working. It's weird.
All right, I'm just opening a few documents so I can switch between them because I have a few things for this.
So that's your property, Jim, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually was unable to open those documents. I just have a quick question. Is Bayless Avenue the only ingress and egress for that complex?
Yes. Yes, Barbara. That's the only road going in and out. This property was subject of a referral by the village a couple of years ago because they were going for a mini storage there.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah, we did write comments related to the mini storage. Then there was, I don't know if the planning board was aware of this, but this parcel owns this little triangle as well. And they wanted to put this parcel, this tiny little triangle is in the village of Port Jefferson, and they wanted to put a billboard on that for the storage facility, but we don't allow billboards. So that became a sticking point with the storage facility. The lot is zoned industrial, light industrial currently. And this is actually, this proposal you wouldn't have seen because actually Mr. Tunis emailed this to me today. It's just a color version of the other
Okay.
proposal that came from, let me just see where the original one from. I think this is kind of a good sense of the site as it
Yeah.
is currently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is this was I guess a former farm, and what we're trying to do is keep the development within the open area so that we can keep the trees on the perimeter of the site. The industrial would allow up to 80,000 square feet of industrial use if we built what it's zoned for right now. And this Bayless is the only exit, and it goes right out onto a residential street of sheep pastures. So your former letter, when the original application came in 2 years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, I think it said something like you didn't really want industrial traffic going into a residential area, but it's of record, and I'm sure you can check back that.
Yeah, I think our comments often in this area, the board's comments are very consistent, usually with being concerned with traffic, because we know that we were just spent a long time discussing the intersection that at 25A and Sheep Pasture Road and North Country Road. And that was a factor. And yes, the concern with adding all of the portions of this area that are in the village of Port Jefferson are in our RB2, and so across the street is the RB2, actually just across the tracks as well. So there were concerns about that being too.
Yeah, so this site is in a primary zone, which is 1,300 feet to the railroad station. I do believe that, you know, many of the people here would visit the stores uptown, and it would add to resurrecting uptown and you know, creating more of a, you know, creating more business for the uptown stores. So it's another reason why I believe that the site would really work with uptown Port Jefferson.
Is there a sidewalk on sheep pasture?
I think there, you know what? I think there is a little bit further down, not in front of Bayless, but I believe in front of the telephone company.
Yeah. Right, the old telephone company. I know that
Yeah,
had a
'cause
part.
I can visualize the sidewalk, but I just didn't know how far back it went.
Yeah,
How far west, I
let
should
me
say.
minimize you. And I might be able to get on Google here. And
No, I'm looking on Google Earth.
oh, okay. What are you seeing?
It's hard to see, you know.
Well, I wouldn't object to connecting a new sidewalk on the corner of Bayless and Sheep Pasture to the existing sidewalk, which I believe starts pretty close to that. So you know, I have no problem installing a sidewalk and curb for the pedestrians that would use that.
Yeah, looking at Google Maps, it looks like it's at the southeast corner of Bayless and Sheep Pasture. It starts and then runs to the east.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's there.
Yeah,
So
it's really
there.
close. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't have to install a high sidewalk. Hooray.
Well, I mean,
It's not our purview, but you know.
Well, you could suggest it.
It doesn't extend from Sheep Pasture towards the tracks. It looks like it ends at Bayless.
Right.
So I mean, if you ran it, continued it further south, you know, to your development, it would help pedestrian.
Yeah. So while we're all on together, do you guys have any use for that triangle on Sheep Pasture?
Oh.
Could be my retirement hot dog.
Well, listen, it's in the village. You know, I could probably donate it for open space. I you know, just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
How many square feet is that? I mean, sorry, that's a real specific question, but
No,
I'm just
you could-
curious what could actually be you.
Gil, you can probably go on Google Earth and do your little measurement and figure it out, I'm sure. But I think it's about 10,000 feet, Laura.
Yeah.
Yeah. Small. I don't think I could fit a house on it.
No, I'm thinking, some sort of community amenity, but I just don't know what would fit.
I think my dog just said a dog park.
Or Rebecca, what about a community farm? Just
Could
one
do
word.
You could do something with it.
I mean, you could put some kind of welcome to Port Jefferson planting thing in there. Not that a lot of people come that way, but a fair amount do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Welcome to, Upper Port Jefferson, something.
Is that on that triangle, just, and I don't mean to digress, but it looks like there's some kind of access way.
Yeah, that's a road to that house.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
Which is on the corner of your property, I guess, right?
Yeah, that house is.
Yeah, that's actually an actual crossing. It's a very narrow road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jim, have you gotten any comments from the railroad?
We had looked up the old comments, and they were just concerned when they were doing 80,000 square feet of industrial. They wanted to make sure that the runoff didn't go onto the railroad tracks.
Okay, because we'll ask you to get, I don't know if the town's going to do that, but we'll ask you to get new comments from the railroad. There was talk, this is long term, but there was talk about a possible train storage yard, moving that I think to the west of your parcel, part of that old Gyrodyne.
No, not Gyrodyne. Lawrence Aviation.
Sorry, wrong town. wrong aviation. Yeah, there was some talk about long-term. So I think getting comments from the railroad are going to be important. That crossing at Bayless is a little steep too, going up and down. And the other thing, I know it's not going to generate a lot of traffic in the peak hour. I think probably you'll have about maybe because apartments don't generate like single family homes, you're going to have probably about 35 trips in and out total in the peak hour. But some of that traffic's going to go east on Sheep Pass. Well, first of all of it goes into the village. And then secondly, some of it is going to go east. Probably more than half will go east on sheep pasture, and then either go south on Main or continue east onto North Country, or go left onto Main to go down to Lower Port. So I think we'd like to see some type of assessment of that traffic. I think that needs to be addressed since it's all going to be in the village. I think the town probably knows that, but the town, since it's a town submission, they need to be made aware of that. But those are the only things that I saw in looking at it. Anybody else have any comments? All right, we'll probably discuss it further and then submit comments to the town. Do we have a deadline on this, Lisa, when they wanted them by?
Yeah, they give us, I think, 30 days for a comment to submit comments. So if there's, if you want to, if anyone, I can wait a few days if you have so you have time to think about if there's anything else that comes to mind that you'd like to include. But otherwise, I'll make note of the traffic concerns, the idea that the traffic be looked at just because of the challenging nature of the intersection, which is likely to be the main route of anyone leaving this complex. Was there anything else besides traffic that had?
Yeah, I'm actually, now that we're looking at it, it's bringing up a few issues, things like snow removal that we'll have to do as a village, but we're not getting any income. We're not getting any tax from this property, but yet we're required to do the snow removal for most of Bayless because it's.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I think that if the village goes down Bayless, it would only go to the railroad tracks.
Yeah, you're only responsible for the snow removal in between 40 and 42, and they're taxpayers in the village. So you wouldn't be required to go over the railroad tracks there.
Okay.
That's the
correct.
town
It would stop at the tracks.
Yeah, that's the town of Brookhaven.
And we do that anyway.
No, I would assume so, but you know, the impact of having a multifamily dwelling with, you know, people coming in and out and I don't know. It's just popping in on the top of my head. It just seems like a burden on the Port Jefferson Village.
Did I count correctly? There are 48 units, is that right, that are being proposed?
I think it's 56.
56, oh,
Jen.
okay, so that's.
Yeah, I could be wrong.
I couldn't, yeah, I looked at the.
Sorry, let me.
It's on the plan on the right side, I think.
Yeah, if you blow up the plan, the ledger right there.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting, Allison, to see if there's.
All right, yes, I didn't get those on the far left before.
Yeah, it's 56, Jennifer. I'm reading it now. So building
Not
7, 8.
insignificant.
Yeah, 7, 8, and 3 and 4 are townhouses.
Mm-hmm.
So those have garages. So I don't know. Would you guys rather see industrial or would you rather see residential? I guess that's my question to you.
I would like, you know, Allison, if you can look up and see if there's any sort of precedent for municipalities when they, you know, when there is something like this, a development that solely uses a different municipality's roads, that's their only way in and out. I'd just be curious what the
Yeah,
Are you talking like a community impact fee? Is that what you're talking about?
You know, yes,
Yeah.
something like that.
I don't think that, I mean, that's not something that we've utilized here in the village, at least that I've seen any history on. But then again, we also don't have a lot of
I'm just curious
projects that cross over.
Yeah, I'm you know, curious what the precedent would be. And I'm not opposed to either one, Jim. Like, I'm happy to see, you know, things being developed. I'm just curious, you know, if there's possible to look at what precedent has been set in other places.
I think largely it comes down to this being your opportunity to provide comment to the town of Brookhaven. That's part of why there's the requirement to notify within a certain distance. We're getting this notification not because of the access, but because of the distance from the neighboring municipality. So that's where the trigger's coming from. Now, mind you, so many other projects, just because this has the only access here, anything that's largely within the radius of our community is going to have direct impact in our community. This one's a little bit different just because it happens to be a driveway across a railroad track. So it looks a little bit different, but the whole purpose behind, just like when we had the referral for the storage units that went on further down on Sheep Pasture Road.
Yeah.
Those half of the traffic's going to turn directly into the village and is on our roads very shortly thereafter. It just looked a little different because it wasn't just a strange driveway over a railroad track. So that's the purpose of this referral. Yeah.
And 100%. I didn't get a chance to look at it. We got it so late. So I'm doing the thing that you're not supposed to do, which is just saying what I'm thinking at the moment.
Well, you have some more time. So listen, if you guys want to take another look, think on it. Lisa doesn't have to draft anything tonight, certainly. You have a little bit more time in order to mull it over and give it some consideration. But again, from the perspective of a community impact fee, that's again not something that we've utilized, and the legalities of pulling that together would be pretty significant. And two, the purpose of this referral is literally for your comments towards the neighboring municipality when they make their decision.
Allison, I have a quick question though.
Yes.
Not so much for this applicant per se, but for the traffic studies that are being done very close to, at interest. would this, even though it's outside of our municipality, should traffic impact studies that say Mather are doing, all of these are heading to our worst intersections. So
There's no reason why
would you
on
include this
neighboring
56
ones?
unit? Yeah.
Well, I'm not
Possibly.
100% sure because this, I'd say possibly. I mean, just because it's not within our boundaries doesn't mean it doesn't have a traffic impact on our community by any means. We know much of the village is actually a thoroughfare between other communities because we have Route 25A going right down the center. That said, this project is also pretty close to a sketch because we don't even have a zone yet.
Right.
So at this time and where we are with other traffic studies right now, I think it would be a little early to require some of the current traffic studies that we're looking at right now to incorporate these counts, because this project's not even a place of appropriate zone for development. If it were further along, I'd say absolutely we should be reaching out to our other applicants and saying, listen, we need these counts to be incorporated into your prospective studies.
Right.
I think this is a little too sketch for that yet.
But should this proceed, the change of zone be granted, and this
we keep this on
particular
our radar and use
for
future
projects uptown, that it be considered even though it's outside of the village, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay,
it's perfectly reasonable.
Okay. Anybody else?
Allison?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. I'm just an email away if the board has any questions on Bayless, and I'll wait for your email on a site visit at Overbay.
Okay.
All right, well, have a wonderful night, and thank you for your time. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Take care.
Okay.
Okay, moving right along. We'll go back to the beginning of the agenda. We have two sets of minutes to approve. March 11th and March 29th. Was March 11th, we were waiting for the bond on, was it the ferry building?
No, I thought it was 170 was the question. What?
I thought there was a bond estimate that needed to be approved on one of them.
Cindy's looking through her notes. Hold on.
Yeah, I should get mine.
I think everything was approved. We were cross-checking maybe the numbers. That was it. Let's see.
Oh, was it some of the quantities on, I thought it was the ferry building with the unit quantities they used and how much was on site and how much was off?
Yeah. Let me.
Why do I not have notes on that?
I have their estimates. I'm not 100% sure what the remaining question was. I think there was a question related to the correction of the amount.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I think it was reduced.
I think it was reduced because they were including the right-of-way on the state road, and that would be included in the DOTs.
Yeah.
Sounds
right.
On. Yeah, so what was that final number is the question. Let me just pull that up.
Yeah, I think it was the, let's see. I think it was the on-site cost. One of the items was, because one of the items was curbs and excavation at the street, which was on the state roadway. And that was included in the site cost. So I think the site costs came down on that one. I don't know, but I thought that's why we were waiting for.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out what that difference was.
I know we had a figure of total estimated cost for curbs and the apron at $16,782, but they attributed most of that to the site, which didn't make sense because that looked like it was on the street. So I think the site amount.
I think it was I think so. They had the excavation and curbs, 425 linear feet at $30 per foot. That was 12,750, and then the apron at the street was 224 square feet at $18 per foot. Was that the part that was 4,032? Was that the part that was removed?
I don't know. I have a $32 thing written down here. I'm not really sure. Let's see if I find some notes. I see I wrote on my notes that the bond estimate for 116 West Broadway needs to be checked.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, if you want me to, I can, what I'll do, since I don't have that note, I was in the file.
Sure.
I thought I would have a copy of it in the file of what was said. And I don't think Cindy has it in her notes. What I'll do is I can actually get the recording and listen back and find out the exact number.
I have written down that the site cost would be reduced by $4,000 to $197,904. The apron subtracted $4,032 from the site cost.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I got too.
Okay, great. So that was the one. I will make that note in this file now, and we can adjust that. So we're subtracting the apron at the street because that is covered by the DOT, right. And so that subtracts 4,032 from their bond estimate.
Right.
Okay.
So that's in the note, that's in the minutes for March 11th, is what you're saying?
Yeah, so we'll amend that part of the minutes so that it's clear that we adjusted the bond amount.
Where it says amount on top right of bond estimate, is that what you're?
There you go.
On page, I guess it's 3 at the top. It says bond and there's 3 bullet points. Are you just adding a bullet point or are you amending the 3rd bullet point?
Where are you looking at, the minutes? Lisa?
Yeah, the minutes from 311.
Okay, so I gotta go back and look at the minutes then.
Page 3.
Okay.
I see it. The 3rd bullet under bond. Are we keeping the $12,750?
And then not 16. I mean, are we amending that 3rd bullet point or are we adding another bullet point?
So what we've just discovered is that we cross-checked this and discovered that the minutes are correct. I think this was the issue that came up the last time, which was that Ray wanted us to verify that that number was correct. However, perhaps we should put in the total number because that is just the number for the curbs, but the total costs include more items in the that's not the full cost of the bond. The bond also, that's just part of the bond.
Okay, so then we actually need to amend the part that says TV move to approve the revised bond amount of.
Right.
That's the number that we're fixing.
Yeah, that number, because the full bond amount is everything from fencing, dumpster pad, asphalt, landscaping, drainage, and it's way higher.
So will I remove that 3rd bullet then?
No, that 3rd bullet is correct, but the amount of the total bond total has to be the adjusted amount of what is on this sheet, which I will.
You'll give me tomorrow.
I will give you that number tomorrow.
Okay.
because I want to make sure it adds up correctly and I'm not misreading this, but I think it will be $201,903.60 minus that
$4,000.
$4,032.
Yeah, and
Right.
just for the record, we knew all that at the time. But when we went to approve the minutes later, we had sort of questions. I just don't want anyone to think that we didn't understand what we were doing at that moment.
Right.
This was much later that we were questioning the number, just so everyone knows.
Yeah. No, that was a good catch on Ray's part, because we were voting on the amended total bond amount, not that one item.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so can I get a vote to approve the minutes as amended as we just discussed regarding the bond amount?
I'll make the motion.
Second? Laura, second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so those minutes are approved. And the March 29th minutes, I think I gave comments to Cindy and she's included them. Anybody else have comments on those? All right, can I get a motion to approve the March 29th minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Tom and Laura, a second. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Do I have to state that I recuse myself because I wasn't there?
Yeah,
No,
March
just-
29th, Gil was absent. So
All
I'm
right,
not-
so you just didn't vote, that's all. So it's 4-0. Yeah. Okay, and I guess we saved the best for last. So it's time for Rebecca's trustee. Oh,
I'm still awake.
Little excitement in the village, so yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I don't know that I have that much to say, actually. So you just covered a lot. And if I did, I've forgotten it by now. I've been taking notes on everything that's been going on here to report back. But do y'all have any questions? We changed as I noted before, the village did pass some parking changes near the new Barnum lot. That was something that was a concern, and they amended that. And otherwise, are there any questions from?
How far along is the parking committee in terms of their review of the, what were we calling it? Parking
Modules?
Yeah. Do you know?
I can email Kevin Wood and
Okay.
ask and CC folks and keep that conversation going so that any information is shared amongst everybody and no one's doing double work, because ain't nobody got time for that right now.
okay.
Any
Other
other
questions?
questions?
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make the motion.
All in favor? Second, sorry. Pick one. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night. We get done before 9 o'clock.
All right, you did it.
All right.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah,
Bye.
May 6th,
Take care.
if not
Bye.